Chapter 3399. If 5 or 6 worlds were independent and not like the world tree, it wouldn't be a lot. Like the world tree, each leaf was a world. When it grew up, it wouldn't be just 2 worlds. Ah, Wan frowned. It's just that the world is a little small. I'm not very satisfied. So be it. I don't want to build a world anymore. I worry about it every day. Building a world means I have a responsibility for it. I can't stop worrying. Ah, Wan was a little sad when she talked about her world. If you haven't built a world, I advise you not to. You're free. I'm speechless for the creatures inside. You even have to find a way to connect to the world of reincarnation. I don't even know why I have to worry about it. Ah, Wan waved her hand and didn't want to talk anymore. This was probably a siege. The people inside wanted to come out, and the people outside wanted to go in. Ning Shu didn't build a world, so he didn't know the joys and sorrows of it. No, he already felt it. The peerless martial arts had tortured her to death. If the world was a person, Ning Shu would really beat the peerless martial arts to death. Why did it torture her like this? She had her own world of reincarnation. She didn't need to beg His Excellency and his world of reincarnation. Seeing Ah Wan like this, Ning Shu was a little shaken. Should he build a world? The world tree was growing slowly and steadily. Since the world tree was in her hands, it meant that it was fate. He had to build a world. This way, the world tree wouldn't be disgraced in his hands. A lightning law imprint could be exchanged for a lot of information. Oh no, he was tempted. After dealing with the star stones, Ning Shu informed someone to change shifts. It was Grand Uncle. Didn't she just change shifts from Grand Uncle? Why did Grand Uncle come to change shifts again? Grand Uncle said to Ning Shu, do well. Give the organization one more energy body. Ning Shu was speechless. I think it's better if you do the exchange. Grand Uncle shook his head. No, she won't. She'll take the opportunity to ask for more. Ning Shu, including breeding. Grand Uncle, will you die if you don't speak? Ning Shu nodded. Yes. Ning Shu returned to the system space. Shortly after, the Cheongsam man contacted her, wailing like a ghost and howling like a wolf. He said that Lolita had come to his restaurant again. His restaurant had just been repaired, and now the violent woman was here again. How could he continue his business? Ning Shu knew that Lolita was here to look for him. She wanted to summon his soul. Ning Shu said, don't worry. Don't worry. Nothing will happen. The man in the Cheongsam was rather suspicious. He always felt that he was particularly unlucky and was always implicated by some things. When Ning Shu arrived at the restaurant had already taken on a new look. Ning Shu saw Li Guo smiling sweetly at the Cheongsam man, while the Cheongsam man was sweating profusely. Stay far away from Li Guo. Ning Shu walked over and sat down. Li Guo's smile was especially sweet. Seeing her like this, Ning Shu imagined her going berserk. This kind of smile was really not flattering. I heard from Sang Liang that you were willing to exchange something with me. He even asked me to wait for you here. Ning Shu thought. Alright, the organization was the go-between. Ning Shu nodded and said, I thought about it and felt that we could exchange. Li Guo smiled even more sweetly and said, that's what I said. Come on, take it out. Ning Shu took out a small box. Inside the box was a silver lightning-shaped mark. The mark was flashing with lightning. Li Guo took out a bead and reached out to take the box. However, Ning Shu pressed down on the box first. Li Guo looked at her and asked, what's the situation? Ning Shu took a deep breath and said, we can exchange, but not like this. What do you mean? Li Guo frowned and said unhappily, how do you want to exchange? Ning Shu said, I was lucky enough to obtain this item with great difficulty. If such a bead wants my Thunder Law imprint, I'm not willing. Then what do you want? Ning Shu reached out her hand. 5 beads? Li Guo's almond eyes widened. Why don't you just rob me? 5 beads had already made Li Guo furious. 50 beads would really make her go berserk. Ning Shu pursed her lips and shook her head slowly. Not 5 beads. It's 50 beads. What? Li Guo held her face and screamed. Her scream almost caused the entire restaurant to collapse. The man in the cheongsam covered his ears. He felt that the sound wave was unbearable. The customers in the restaurant were also forced to listen. This sound was not sweet at all. If anyone dared to talk to him about this little girl, he would drown them with his saliva. Ning Shu said calmly, your bead is so small. It doesn't seem to have a lot of energy, so I need more. 50 beads is actually not a lot. How is it not a lot? It's a lot. Li Guo was very frustrated. She was about to go berserk. She looked at the box on the table and reached out to snatch it. However, Ning Shu took it first. Miss Li Guo, it's not nice of you to do this. Are you trying to snatch it? Ning Shu kept the items in her spatial ring. 50 beads is too much. The lightning law mark is not valuable at all. It's okay. It's valuable in my heart. Actually, I don't even want to exchange 50 beads. I want to keep them for myself. Li Guo suppressed the frustration in her heart. Their race was like this. They were especially easily agitated. Once they were agitated, they would go berserk easily. Therefore, she had to bear with it. Li Guo said, then why do you suddenly want to exchange? Li Guo narrowed her eyes and thought. Is it because that bastard Tai Shu needs energy? Is that why he did this? Ning Shu was speechless. Who said that she was an idiot? What idiot? It was just that when she went berserk, her IQ became her strength. Her IQ was not taken away, so her brain was still very active. Li Guo pouted and rolled her eyes. Why doesn't he ask me for energy? If he wants to do that with me, wouldn't I give him energy? Ning Shu was speechless. She suddenly felt that Tai Shu was a gigolo and Li Guo was a rich woman. Forget it. I don't want the lightning law mark anymore. Tai Shu is really too much. If he wants energy, he should tell me. Why is he embarrassed? Li Guo returned to her previous sweet self. Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders. It was not that she was unwilling to exchange. It was not that she did not complete her task. It was that Tai Shu did not want to exchange. Since he did not want to exchange, she would use the lightning law mark herself. As for other things, she could take it slowly. There was plenty of time. Li Guo looked at Ning Shu from the corner of her eyes. How about this? I'll exchange with you for 5 energy beads. Forget it. I'm not exchanging either. Ning Shu was not in the mood to exchange either. She was still a little reluctant to give up the lightning law mark. She had always wanted to use it herself. If she had the lightning law mark, her strength would be stronger. Chapter 3400. Thunder and lightning were extremely explosive. Thunder and lightning had a restraining effect on all living things, especially the soul. As for the world, it was a foreign object after all. Like the world of samsara, it provided Ning Shu with a place to stay, but he still had to work hard for the operation of the world. In short, Ning Shu didn't care much about exchanging or not. And exchanging something for some information wasn't worth it, but it was a little useless for her now. After all, the world tree was still growing slowly and hadn't grown into a world yet. As for the formation of a world, it would be many years later. In this situation, it was better to strengthen herself. I won't exchange. Anyway, I have what Tai Shu wants now. Li Guo smiled and said to Ning Shu, you can keep the mark of the Law of Thunder. Li Guo looked at Ning Shu and said, you're looking for death if you want to merge with the mark with your weak soul. Disappear with your mark of the Law of Thunder. Ning Shu said, thank you for your concern. I will merge with it when my soul is stronger. I'm leaving. Li Guo skipped away. Looking at her back, she seemed to be very happy. Ning Shu silently lit a candle for Tai Shu in his heart. It was annoying to provoke such a person. Don't underestimate anyone's IQ, even the little lowly who often went berserk. Ning Shu laughed in his heart. He said to the Cheongsam man who sighed with relief, order, I have to eat something. When you're happy, you have to eat delicious food. Dan Qing said to Ning Shu, well, the main system is waiting for you in the consultation room. You can go there. Ning Shu said, oh, and said to the Cheongsam man, order, don't stand. Sit down and eat with me. As for the silver-haired man, just wait. Anyway, it was the silver-haired man who was looking for her, not the other way around. If you need someone to find you, you have to find someone else. Sorry, I'm not going. Or you can find me. The Cheongsam man's expression was a little depressed. He sat opposite Ning Shu and put the fan on the table, looking bored. He looked very dejected. Ning Shu poured himself a cup of tea and took a sip. Although he wasn't able to exchange for the Thunder Law imprint, Ning Shu's heart was unexpectedly happy. It doesn't matter. However, the Cheongsam man's expression was not appetizing at all. What's wrong? Why are you so dejected? You look so dejected. The surroundings are filled with your dejected aura. Don't pollute the environment, okay? Try to stay away from people with negative energy. Negative energy was contagious. The School of Depression. Ning Shu, the man in the Cheongsam, asked, do you think our efforts are useful? Of course it's useless, but what can we do if we don't work hard? Ning Shu shrugged. It was still the same old saying. Working hard might not succeed, but not working hard was very comfortable. Rather than working hard, the chances of success were still very small, so it was better not to work hard. But if you don't work hard, there's really nothing. Ning Shu guessed that the Cheongsam man must have suffered a blow. Seeing someone like Li Guo was really a blow to him. Fortunately, he climbed up bitterly, but in the end, her starting point was higher than his. He felt like he couldn't see the end and was especially dejected. Ning Shu also felt like this before. He didn't want to do anything and just wanted to lie down. You're depressed periodically. It's okay. After a while, you'll feel like you're on steroids. Ning Shu didn't care about the Cheongsam man's dejection at all. So what if he was depressed? He still had to do what he had to do. Life still had to go on. The Cheongsam man said, the thing I regret the most now is that I didn't comprehend the spatial laws earlier, causing me to be unable to go anywhere now. For the Cheongsam man, traveling 1,000 miles in one step was too far away. Previously, there was still the Lost City, so he could still comprehend it. Now that the Lost City was gone, it was even more difficult to comprehend the laws. Drink, drink, I feel like crying. The Cheongsam man rubbed his eyes. I miss my girlfriend. Ning Shu was speechless. This was the second time she saw the Cheongsam man cry. This guy's ability to withstand pressure was too low. Why did he cry out for no reason? In the future, she didn't need to call him Cheongsam man. She could just call him crybaby. Why was the Cheongsam man crying in front of her for no reason? Ning Shu looked at him expressionlessly. The Cheongsam man said angrily, you're such a blockhead. When a man is weak, you should give him a loving hug to comfort his hurt heart. Men are also human. Men also have their weak moments. Ning Shu reached out and wiped the Cheongsam man's face with a table napkin. Don't cry. The Cheongsam man felt uncomfortable being wiped by Ning Shu and waved her hand away. You woman, Ning Shu said, what's wrong with me? Cold and heartless. Ning Shu said, I shouldn't have wiped your tears. I should have poked your eyes blind. Although I'm cold and heartless, am I especially beautiful? Ning Shu held her chin with both hands and blinked. Am I beautiful? Poisonous rose. Beautiful is beautiful. The Cheongsam man shook his head. Ning Shu liked this comment. Poisonous rose was a rose. Roses were beautiful and poisonous. No one dared to touch them. Just admire my beauty from afar. When Ning Shu and the Cheongsam man were eating, the silver-haired man came. Ning Shu looked at him and continued to eat. The silver-haired man sat down and said to the Cheongsam man, I have something to say to her. Okay. The Cheongsam man stood up and walked away. He even asked the waiter to bring a pot of tea. Why didn't you succeed? Are you unwilling to exchange? The silver-haired man asked. Ning Shu shook her head. It's because your intentions were exposed. You seem to have underestimated the intelligence of women. If they really thought that Li Guo was a raging loli, it was only because they were stupid when fighting. The silver-haired man narrowed his eyes and pointed at the teacup. The teacup was as white as jade and the silver-haired man's fingers were very white. Ning Shu asked shamelessly, you said that you wanted to give me some information. Will you give it to me? The silver-haired man said, you didn't even succeed and you still want things. Ning Shu put down his chopsticks and took a sip of tea. How can you blame me? You were too impatient and asked for too much. Li Guo found out. How much did you ask? The silver-haired man asked. 50. The silver-haired man said, indeed, a little too much. I wanted to raise the price. When the time comes, there will still be more than 20. However, the other party didn't want to do it. What can I do? Ning Shu said very innocently. As long as you let the Taishu sacrifice himself, the matter of the energy body will be solved in a matter of minutes. Ning Shu chuckled. The silver-haired man glanced at Ning Shu. Not everything can be solved in bed. Ning Shu was speechless. Were they going to talk about such a vulgar topic? Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Chapter 3401. However, the silver-haired man was too noble and cold. His heart didn't beat fast when he talked about this topic. He didn't seem wretched at all. But now, Li Guo is obviously using this matter to make grand-uncle compromise. He won't, the silver-haired man said directly. You're willing to do such a thing for such a small thing. Ning Shu said, I'm not willing. Even if I'm willing, there's nothing I can do. How could he come if he didn't have a body? How about this? Give your Thunder Law imprint to the organization. This can be considered an exchange between the organization and you. Ning Shu shook his head. I feel that I have a special fate with this law imprint, so I don't plan to exchange it. Even if you exchange it, Li Guo may not exchange it with you. Ning Shu said, by the way, senior uncle said that he would give me a message. Although I didn't complete the task, I did put in some effort. The silver-haired man looked at Ning Shu. Are you trying to say that you worked hard even if you didn't contribute anything? People always like to talk about things with their strength when they didn't contribute anything. This is a sign of incompetence, you know. Ning Shu said, then you seem to owe me a free question. I'm going to use the last question now, okay? The silver-haired man nodded. Okay, ask away. Ning Shu said, what kind of world can give birth to creatures? How can I get merit? The silver-haired man said, these are two questions. Which one should I answer? Ning Shu thought about it. Now that she had the world of reincarnation, which provided a place for souls to reincarnate, she could get merit now. Ning Shu said, "How can I get merit?" According to Ah Wan, she didn't seem to have any merit. The silver-haired man glanced at Ning Shu. "Do you really want to get merit?" Ning Shu nodded. "Of course. Only an idiot wouldn't take merit." Merit points were all money. The more merit points, the better. The silver-haired man said, "Do you know why so many people don't get merit? They built the world and the world gave birth to creatures." "I don't know." "I don't know anything," Ning Shu said. "Don't ask her. What does she know? It would be strange if she could understand these things. After all, she was an ignorant human." The silver-haired man said, "If you want merit, you need to fuse with the world's heavenly Tao." Ning Shu. Fuse with the heavenly Tao? It didn't sound like a good thing. The silver-haired man replied, "Of course it's not a good thing. If you fuse with the heavenly Tao, then you'll be trapped in that world and have to worry about it. Right now, you are a heavenly Tao that has transcended the world. You have fused with the heavenly Tao and lowered your own style for no reason. Right now, you are no longer within the 3 realms and 5 elements of any world. You have fused with the heavenly Tao. If anything happens to the world, the heavenly Tao will be annihilated, and you will be annihilated as well." Lowering myself for a little merit. Ning Shu nodded. "So that's how it is." He could have been the chairman, but he insisted on being the director. Although he would gain some merit, he would have to live and die with that world. Ning Shu would not do such a thing. If nothing unexpected happened, he could live for a very long time, longer than any other world. It was indeed not worth it for a little merit. As for merit, he could slowly earn it. But if he fused with the heavenly Tao, then he would have to rack his brains for a world because once anything happened to the world, he would have to follow suit. Ning Shu immediately gave up on this idea. Anyone with a little bit of foresight would not do this. Ning Shu rolled his eyes in annoyance. Why was the grand uncle so deceitful? How could he use such a deceitful method to trick her into selling things? She must have been possessed by him. Originally, because of the will of death, she could live for a very long time. If she really fused with the world's heavenly Tao, she might even die young. So what if it was a world? It was going to collapse sooner or later. Had she not dealt with enough star stones? Too deceitful. "One free question has been used up," the silver-haired man said. "Do you want to exchange for the Thunder Law imprint?" Ning Shu shook his head. "Forget it. I'm not exchanging. Even if I did, Li Guo might not ask for it from you." He felt that the Thunder Law imprint was dispensable to Li Guo. Compared to borrowing seeds, the Thunder Law imprint was just something that Li Guo did along the way. For Li Guo, borrowing seeds was the most important thing. After all, it concerned the entire race. Li Guo had experimented with the Thunder Law imprint, so the success rate was probably not very high. The dozens of beads were more important to Li Guo or the race behind her. Ning Shu said, "I have another question." She was really glad that the Thunder Law imprint had not been exchanged successfully. If she had gotten such an answer, Ning Shu felt that she would have gone berserk and choked the grand uncle to death. Where was the trust between people? Could he be more sincere? "What question?" "You have to pay this time," the silver-haired man said. Ning Shu nodded. "I will pay." Ning Shu asked, "It's the question that I asked before. How does the world evolve into living beings?" Only a world that evolved into living beings could be considered a living world. A world without living beings was at most a space that could be filled with things. "This question requires a lot of merit points," the silver-haired man said. Ning Shu said, "I can pay however much it is, 50 million. Ning Shu gulped down a mouthful of tea and asked calmly, "How much is it, 50 million? Wasn't this the most expensive question in history?" In the past, she had thought that the silver-haired man was very expensive to charge hundreds of thousands of merit points. Now, it seemed that hundreds of thousands of merit points were not a big deal at all. 50 million. Ning Shu felt that she seemed to have touched on something core. That was why it was so expensive. Ning Shu wanted to scratch her head. She really did not have so much money on her. She would ask again when she had enough money. Moreover, there was still a long time before her world tree grew. She was not in a hurry. Ning Shu said, "Then I'll wait a little longer." The silver-haired man disappeared directly. Ning Shu immediately stuffed something into her mouth. She had to eat something to calm herself down. How long would it take to save 50 million merit points? And there was a bunch of skeletons waiting for her to raise. The man in the Cheongsam sat over and asked Ning Shu, "What did the main system want from you?" Ning Shu said, "It's about that Lolita." The man in the Cheongsam stopped asking. About that Lolita, he felt a headache every time he heard her name. The man in the Cheongsam said to Ning Shu in a gossipy manner, "Do you think this girl can succeed?" Ning Shu said, "What do you think? Shall we make a bet?" The man in the Cheongsam said, "What do you want to bet?" "If you lose, you have to teach me how to comprehend the space law. If you win, I will teach you how to comprehend the time law." Chapter 3402. He could tell that the man in the Cheongsam was really anxious because he had not comprehended the space law yet. The space law could allow one to travel as they wished, especially in the vast void, where the space law was even more important. Without the space law, it was like having his legs cut off. He could not go anywhere. Relying on the system's teleportation was not as convenient as running around on his own. Moreover, the system's teleportation required energy. He could not let the system teleport everywhere. It would not be as convenient as running around on his own. Ning Shu said, "Then you probably won't be able to comprehend the space law for a long time." The man in the Cheongsam asked, "Why?" Ning Shu looked at him from the corner of his eyes. "In the face of a life that is about to be trampled, you will have to struggle for a long time. Even if you succeed, you will need to mentally prepare yourself." Abandoning one's moral integrity was a painful process, but after abandoning it, one would be free. It felt great. The man in the Cheongsam was speechless. "Forget it, I'm not betting anymore. It's boring. How about we trade? You teach me, and I'll teach you." Ning Shu said, "Why don't you look for Elder Qi? Elder Qi is the embodiment of the space law. Wouldn't it be easier to find him?" Ning Shu had also asked Elder Qi for advice. Elder Qi was definitely the right choice. Moreover, the other embodiments of the laws were participating in the battle, but Elder Qi did not appear. Elder Qian's nomological incarnation was a little different. The man in the Cheongsam shook his head. "Forget it. I haven't even learned the space law yet. Elder Qi will probably beat me to death." If it was some profound question, he could ask him. However, if it was some basic question or not, Elder Qi would not even bother with him. Now, the man in the Cheongsam just wanted to comprehend the space law as soon as possible. After seeing this many times, the man in the Cheongsam felt that he was under a lot of pressure. Ning Shu, who was clearly weaker than him, was running in front of him, but he actually felt like he was walking on the spot. Not only was he walking on the spot, but he even felt like he was moving backward. The man in the Cheongsam was a little anxious now. He felt like he was living in a drunken stupor. He felt like he was wasting his time guarding a small restaurant. Ning Shu thought for a moment. "Okay, then let's trade." The space law and the time law were two high-level laws. They were neck and neck. The man in the Cheongsam said, "Then let's start." The Cheongsam man was eager to give it a try. Ning Shu. "Don't worry, I still have a mission to complete." The law of time was a high-level technique that could stop time. If it was during a fight, stopping time for 1 or 2 seconds was very powerful. The outcome of a battle between experts could be decided in a short moment. Why are you busy doing missions all day? The Cheongsam man could not help but ask, every time I see you, you say that you're going to do missions. Ning Shu. Don't you do missions? Don't you have a backlog of missions? Alright, then. Let's try to interact with each other first. He tried to comprehend the laws of time. Ning Shu told the Cheongsam man about his experience in comprehending the law of space. First, he had to find a spatial node. If he could touch a spatial node, he might be able to comprehend the law of space. Spatial nodes were densely packed everywhere, and it was these spatial nodes that formed the space. The man in the Cheongsam told Ning Shu that the law of time could be said to be very difficult, but it could also be said to be simple. First, he had to comprehend time. How to comprehend it? He really had to comprehend it himself. The passage of time was reversed. Even if it stopped reversing, time was still moving forward. You could stop the clock, but it did not mean that time had stopped. In short, it was a very difficult law to comprehend. Ning Shu was puzzled. The man in the Cheongsam said that the law of space was the same, which made people scratch their heads. Those who did not understand it did not find it difficult. Ning Shu and the Cheongsam man looked at each other awkwardly. Anyway, Ning Shu would not admit that his comprehension was not good. Ning Shu said, let's take our time to comprehend it. There's no rush. Ning Shu felt that the curse technique could help him comprehend the law. The curse technique used the power of the law. He just did not know if time could be used. Okay. The Cheongsam man was also very helpless. Ning Shu paid the bill. After all, he had eaten so much. If he did not pay, the Cheongsam man would probably cry. Ning Shu asked, is it really profitable to run a restaurant? There were bars in other cities. The wine in the bars was brewed with the water of the reincarnation pool. Ning Shu could not figure out why they would use the water of the reincarnation pool to brew wine. The water of the reincarnation pool had a weakening effect on the soul, but they still drank it. The Cheongsam man said, can you not mention my sad past? I really want to close the restaurant now. It's not making money at all. Ning Shu said, then close it. I don't think the feng shui of your restaurant is very good. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many problems. The main reason was that the Cheongsam man was the #1 law incarnation. If there was anything, they would gather in the Cheongsam man's restaurant. Even the silver-haired man and the others often came over. However, there was also a lot of trouble. Once a fight broke out in the restaurant, the things in the restaurant would be destroyed. The Cheongsam man said, I can't close it. My girlfriend and I opened this restaurant together. Back then, we said that we would drink wine together, but, Ning Shu rolled his eyes very impolitely. The Cheongsam man always talked about his dead girlfriend. After hearing it too much, he lost interest. Ning Shu said, I'm going back. I'll go back and slowly comprehend it. It was very cool to be able to control time. Dan Qing said to Ning Shu, someone is looking for you. They sent you a message. Ning Shu asked, who is it? Shu Bai. Dan Qing was very unfamiliar with this Shu Bai. In his information about Ning Shu, this was a very insignificant person. Shu Bai. Ning Shu raised her eyebrows, snorted, and asked, what's the matter? She thought that she had nothing to do with Shu Bai. She did not expect Shu Bai to look for her. Dan Qing said, I don't know. She asked you to go to Water City. It sounded very urgent. She sounded like she was about to cry. Ning Shu said, it's none of my business. Even if she cried to death, it was none of her business. She had nothing to do with Shu Bai. It could be said that they were no longer friends. Dan Qing said, oh, then I'll reply to her. After a while, Dan Qing said again, she asked you to go over. It seems to be very urgent. Ning Shu said again, it's none of my business. To be honest, it was unexpected that Dan Qing would lower himself to look for her. After all, in Ning Shu's impression, they had already stopped talking to each other. When Ning Shu returned to the system space, the chatting system was ringing non-stop. Ning Shu clicked on the chatting system. All kinds of messages were sent by Shu Bai very quickly. Because it was too fast, Ning Shu did not understand what was happening. Chapter 3403. There were too many messages, and Ning Shu was too lazy to scroll up. He said to Dan Qing, what did she say? She didn't say anything. She just begged you to go to Water City. Since she said the word beg, it seems like the situation is really bad. Are you on bad terms with her? I could say a few words before, but now I don't even want to say anything. The chat system was still ringing. Ning Shu was annoyed and blocked Shu Bai. Since Shu Bai could be indifferent to her, she could also be indifferent to Shu Bai. Shu Bai said that she only had animal instincts to avoid danger. Then why would she be friends with an animal? It was the instinct of all creatures to seek benefits and avoid harm. However, if she couldn't completely comply, then there was nothing to say. If you're heartless, I'll be unrighteous too. Who knows what would happen next time? Then, Shu Bai would sell her out again. This kind of thing happened once, so be it. If there was no friendship, then there was no need to make friends. After blocking Shu Bai, the world became much quieter. However, after a while, the messages rang again. Ning Shu, who is it this time? Let me see. Dan Qing looked and said, it's the Imperial Advisor. It's the Imperial Advisor of the auction house. The organization had backup copies of some missions that they were interested in. As a system, he needed to know this information. Ning Shu asked, why is he looking for me? The system looked at the message. After a while, it said to Ning Shu, he's acting as a lobbyist for Shu Bai. Shu Bai is in trouble now. He wants you to help. Ning Shu, what does it have to do with me? Shu Bai wasn't anyone to her. Why did she have to help her when she was in trouble? Where was her shame? It seemed that the Imperial Advisor also wanted to be blocked. To be honest, the feeling of being blocked was really good. The world was peaceful, and there was no more worldly worries. It felt like she was about to ascend to immortality. It was as good as squeezing pimples. Shu Bai probably paid a price to get the Imperial Advisor to act as a lobbyist. Ning Shu was suddenly a little curious. What happened to Shu Bai that made her so anxious? It would be good to go and watch the show and add insult to injury. Ning Shu was a little eager to give it a try. She still had a grudge in her heart. He had sold her the book for nothing, and in the end, she had even accepted a restaurant. Now, she was running 2 restaurants, which made him a little unhappy. Ning Shu arrived at the City of Water, but he did not know who was the embodiment of the law of water. Back then, when her law imprint had collapsed, he did not know if a new law imprint had been born. Shu Bai's restaurant was surrounded by a lot of people. They were probably here to watch the show. Ning Shu squeezed through the crowd and saw Shu Bai talking to someone. She was sweating profusely and had a terrified expression on her face. Her previous elegant and calm demeanor was no longer there. Opposite her was a red-haired woman who was glaring at Shu Bai with a fierce expression. Shu Bai's aura was immediately suppressed. In front of this woman, Shu Bai was like a trembling little chick. Ning Shu suddenly thought of something and asked Dan Qing, didn't Shu Bai stop doing missions? Why is there still a system space and a chat system? Didn't Shu Bai use the chat system to contact her before? Dan Qing said, she doesn't have a system anymore, but the system space is still there. There are still some basic facilities. Ning Shu responded with an "oh." He thought that Shu Bai had nothing left. Even though she has quit the ranks of the mission enforcers, the organization is still registered. These things are still there. Although he did not know what had happened, Shu Bai was too weak in front of this fierce woman. Moreover, the restaurant was in a mess. All kinds of broken bowls and chopsticks were all over the floor. The tables and chairs were all missing limbs. It seemed that she was here to cause trouble. He did not know what grudges Shu Bai had with this woman. It seemed that Shu Bai had asked her to help suppress this woman. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. He had no grudges with this fierce woman. Moreover, he had already fallen out with Shu Bai. There was no reason to offend this strange woman for Shu Bai. Ning Shu asked the people who were watching the show, what happened. The person who was asked said, she's a woman. When she fights, it must be because of a man. Ning Shu immediately moved 2 steps to the side. She usually did not talk to men with straight men. Ning Shu asked a female mission enforcer. This woman was more reliable than the previous mission enforcer. She said, I'm not sure what happened. That fierce woman entered the restaurant and started smashing it. Oh, she's so fierce. Ning Shu looked at the fierce woman and wanted to praise her. Moreover, she had made Shu Bai suffer. She was completely suppressed in front of this woman. Shu Bai was very annoyed. She casually glanced around and saw Ning Shu standing in the crowd. The two of them looked at each other. Ning Shu turned around and walked away. Shu Bai did not hesitate. She immediately chased after Ning Shu. Ning Shu, wait a moment. Her voice sounded like she was about to cry. The people around her opened up a path for her. Ning Shu stopped in his tracks. He turned around and looked at Shu Bai. Why are you looking for me? The fierce woman looked over and sized up Ning Shu. She probably thought that Ning Shu was a helper that Shu Bai had found. Shu Bai begged Ning Shu, can you help me? I beg you. Ning Shu said, what does it have to do with me? Shu Bai was speechless. Shu Bai did not expect Ning Shu to be so impolite. She was stunned for a moment. She looked at Ning Shu in a daze. The fierce woman walked over. She was very domineering. She said to Ning Shu, I don't have any grudges with you. Let me tell you, don't be deceived by this woman. She's used to putting on airs. She's selfish. For her own sake, she can sacrifice others to the heavens to make her power boundless. The fierce woman removed the skin on Shu Bai's face. She clearly made a mistake, but she blamed it on the system. Then, she thought of a way to absolve herself and sacrificed her own system. Ning Shu was speechless. This seemed to be very different from what she had heard. This was different from what Shu Bai had told her. She said that she was too tired and couldn't hold on anymore. That was why she opened a restaurant. She also said that she paid a price to separate herself from the system and let the system start over. Ning Shu was speechless. Her eyes were also lame. However, she didn't have many opportunities to interact with Shu Bai. They also didn't have the opportunity to do missions together. If they did missions together, she would be able to see a person's character clearly. Without experiencing some things, one would not be able to tell. Shu Bai's face turned green. She shouted at the fierce woman in a low voice, shut up. TSK, you have the ability to do it, but you don't let others talk about it. You're a bitch, but you still want to set up a monument to your chastity. The fierce woman had a mocking expression. Shu Bai couldn't argue with her. She said to Ning Shu, City Lord, you're the City Lord of Water City. You should take care of the city's stability. She's causing trouble now. Ning Shu was speechless. Sorry, I'm no longer the City Lord. Chapter 3404. This Shu Bai was probably the only person she had met who had a completely different personality from her appearance. On the phone. Moreover, Shu Bai didn't even blush when she spoke. She calmly talked about life, the future, and various other things with her. However, she didn't expect it to be like this. She had beautified herself to this extent. In fact, she had been sold by Xu Bai. She had probably been tempted by the restaurant as well. In the beginning, the restaurant belonged to Zhang Jiasen. After that incident, it was transferred to Xu Bai. Ning Shu didn't believe that there wasn't anything fishy going on. The fierce woman said to Ning Shu, "I advise you to stay away from her. You won't even know if she sold you. Do you know how despicable this woman is? I can't even describe it. Hee hee." Her laughter was filled with ridicule. Xu Bai's face turned red from the sarcasm. With so many people watching, it affected her voice. She warned the thorny woman in a low voice, "Don't go too far." "I'm going too far, Xu Bai. Do you want me to tell everyone what you've done? I wonder if the people who eat in your restaurant will be disgusted to the point that they won't be able to eat if they think that their boss is such a person." The eyes of the onlookers were filled with the desire to gossip. Watching others make a scene was engraved in their bones. Good intentions couldn't stop them. Xu Bai took a deep breath and asked her, "What do you want? Didn't you want to blackmail me? Why do you have to slander me with some things that didn't happen?" "I'm slandering you, Xu Bai. These things are true. In the past, I treated you as a friend and treated you wholeheartedly. However, how did you treat me? How did you treat your own system? How did you treat him? Him? Her? Which one was he? Could it be that a man was involved in this matter?" This scene seemed to be a scene of close friends turning against each other. It had nothing to do with Ning Shu. Ning Shu didn't want to get involved at all. Oh my God, one had to stay as far away from people like Xu Bai. Otherwise, who knew when she would stab one in the back? This was the most uncomfortable thing. One's heart would be hurt. This fierce woman was clearly hurt by Xu Bai. "I treated you as a friend, but you treated me as a fool who could be used as a shield at any time. So sad. Don't slander me. Who can prove what you just said? You just said it casually." Xu Bai was very annoyed. She didn't have a single moment of peace. How annoying. Who can prove that those people who were tricked by you and abandoned by you are all dead? Dead people tell no tales. Of course you can be so confident. Xu Bai, aren't you afraid of retribution? What retribution? I didn't do anything. Because of what he did to me and you've been causing trouble for me everywhere. Now, you're even using groundless things to cause trouble for me and smash my restaurant. What right do you have to do this? Xu Bai, you are even more shameless than I thought. The fierce woman sneered. So what if I destroy your restaurant? I want to destroy it. Xiao Kuei, you're bullying me because you're stronger than me. What are you doing? The fierce woman called Xiao Kuei immediately said, "I'm relying on my strength." Sorry, being strong means that you can do whatever you want. As long as your restaurant is open for business, I will come here every day. Xu Bai, I will take back what you owe her. Why are you still living so well? But he's so miserable. Xu Bai's face was a little pale. You can't do this. I didn't ask him to do this. He did it willingly. It has nothing to do with me. Hee hee. Xiao Kuei sneered. Xu Bai, you're still so disgusting. I just went out for a while and something like this happened when I came back. You're venting your anger on me because you can't get what you want. So what if you're strong? You can't get what you want even if you're strong. You're jealous of me. It's useless for me to be strong, but I can make your restaurant shut down. Xiao Kuei said to the onlookers. If anyone dares to patronize Xu Bai's restaurant in the future, you're going against me. You're welcome to find trouble with me. You. Xu Bai had always been calm and elegant. However, she was so angry that tears were rolling down her cheeks. Shu Bai looked at Ning Shu. City Lord, Ning Shu said, this is a matter between the two of you. It's not good for me to interfere. If there's any resentment, let's settle it. Communication is the most important thing. Shu Bai looked at Ning Shu's indifferent expression and felt a chill in her heart. She whispered to Ning Shu, City Lord, help me. I can give you what you want. I can give you all the merit points I've earned and the power of faith. Please help me get rid of this crazy woman. She can't get what she loves, so she's paranoid. She has to find trouble with me. Ning Shu was really sick of it. Shu Bai was acting as if she was a good person and everyone was looking for trouble with her. The whole world was jealous of her. Did she think that she had the destiny of a female lead? Ning Shu shook his head. I don't lack merit points. I can earn merit points myself now. Shu Bai had no choice but to say to Chiu Kuei, this is a space of laws. Armed fighting is prohibited. You're challenging the rules of a city of laws. A city of laws? This is not a city of laws. What kind of city is it if there are no laws? In the past, armed fighting was prohibited because the enchantment was broken and the laws outside poured in. Now that there are no laws, the enchantment is considered broken and can be repaired. I've tolerated you for so long before coming to find trouble with you. Shu Bai's face was very pale. Chiu Kuei, what do you mean? Do you think the organization will allow you to fight in this space? Even if there are no laws, there are other mission enforcers who will be affected. The organization will not allow you to mess around like this. Ning Shu looked at Chiu Kuei. Why was this person more well-informed than her? Could it be that armed fighting was allowed in the space of laws in the future and personal grievances could be settled? If that was the case, then the space of laws would become much more chaotic. Chiu Kuei spread her hands and said, I didn't fight with you. I was just angry because the food in your restaurant was not delicious. You. Shu Bai bit her lips tightly. Must you be so ruthless? When it comes to ruthlessness, who can compare to you? Burning the bridge after crossing the river and getting rid of the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. I really feel that it's not worth it for him. Shu Bai had no choice but to report this matter to the organization and ask for the judges to come over. She had no way to deal with this crazy woman. A jealous woman could not stand it and could not handle Chiu Kuei. Moreover, Shu Bai was very uneasy. Because there were no laws, the rules of the space of laws that prohibited armed fighting would be much more relaxed. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 3405. Once the rules were relaxed, the city of laws would become a lot more chaotic. On the phone, this wasn't a good thing for Shu Bai because her living environment would become a lot more difficult. After the city became chaotic, people could come and cause trouble at any time. However, if the organization didn't care, the city would become chaotic and it would be difficult to do business. Without rules and restrictions, these powerful people might eat for free and even smash the restaurant, just like Long John's. All kinds of thoughts flashed through Shu Bai's mind. The more she thought about it, the paler her face became. Ning Shu felt that if the law space became a place where no one cared about anything, it would be a good thing for her. After all, she had suffered because of the rules of the law space many times. In this case, it would be more convenient for her to do things in the law space. She might even be able to kill Zhang Jiasen directly. In short, it would be more convenient for the strong, but it would be more difficult for the weak to survive. Chiu Kuei said to Ning Shu, hurry up and leave. This matter has nothing to do with you. Shu Bai should have called the judge. She has always been like this. She would never let go of anything that she could use. Ning Shu said, I'm just here to watch the show. It really has nothing to do with me. Chiu Kuei, who had a straight face, smiled. This smile diluted her fierce aura. Chiu Kuei said, even if the judge is here, I won't be afraid of you. Shu Bai didn't say anything. No wonder he doesn't like you. Who would like you when you're like this? Xiao Kuei said, what I am is my business. Without him, I have great strength. However, you have nothing except for him. You sold him out. Now, you have neither strength nor strength. You have nothing. What right do you have to laugh at me? You have nothing and are dragging out an ignoble existence. How dare you laugh at others? Long John's words were very vicious. They stabbed Shu Bai's heart into pieces and she couldn't say anything. Yes, she looked like she had nothing. Now, she only had the restaurant. If she didn't even have the restaurant, then she would really have nothing. Soon, an inquisitor arrived. This inquisitor was the one who had been with Zhang Jiasen the last time. Shu Bai actually called this judge. Ning Shu suddenly felt that the previous matter wasn't simple at all. Perhaps Shu Bai was also involved. Ning Shu couldn't help but wonder why this judge had been summoned. Ning Shu couldn't help but wonder. The judge appeared very noble and cold, but when she saw Ning Shu, she frowned. When she saw Okra, her frown deepened. Shu Bai said to the judge, Judge, Oki is causing trouble in the law space. He. Oki looked at the judge. The judge felt a little awkward. One was a wily old fox. Last time, Ning Shu had also caused trouble in this law-abiding city. In the end, nothing happened at all. It was said that the organization even gave him preferential treatment. Now, it was her again. The judge felt a headache coming on. He kept feeling that his head was made of iron. In short, he kept bumping into these difficult people. Oki sneered and looked at Shu Bai as if she was looking at a clown. Is he the only one you can call? That's true. A weakling like you wouldn't be able to summon Taishu. If it were Taishu, he would be able to suppress me, but this judge won't be able to. The judge's mouth twitched, but he didn't say anything. Shu Bai felt that something was wrong. The current situation was very unfavorable for her. Oki brushed the loose hair on her forehead. I'm tired of playing the game of weaklings with you. Oki said to the judge, go back first. I have something to deal with. I won't make things difficult for you, and I won't let Taishu know. The judge hesitated for a moment and said, don't go overboard. You. Shu Bai saw the judge's attitude towards Oki and had a bad premonition. Oki snorted. I'm the person in charge of the third zone. Oh, right. You don't even know what the third zone is. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. He didn't expect Oki to be the person in charge of the third zone. It seemed that there were many powerful female mission enforcers here. She knew that 2 of the people in charge of the third zone were women. Although Shu Bai didn't know what she was talking about, she saw the judge's attitude towards Oki and knew that Oki's status wasn't low. Shu Bai's heart was filled with despair. Who knew that the person who used to play with them would be so powerful? If she knew that she was so powerful, she wouldn't have carelessly offended her. When the judge was about to leave, Shu Bai grabbed the judge in a panic. You can't leave. They're causing trouble in the city. You're the judge. You have to be fair. If you can't treat them fairly, I can only report them to the organization. Oki sneered. You're so childish and pitiful. Even if I kill you, at most, I'll suffer some small things. Moreover, you're useless. You're useless to the organization. You even sold your own system. To the organization, you're a useless piece of trash. Who do you think the organization will side with? You can leave. Thank you for coming here, Oki said to the judge. The judge nodded and turned to leave. It was impossible to judge such a person. It was better to let someone else do it. Don't go. Don't go. Shu Bai couldn't take it anymore. The situation was getting worse. The judge said, you can find someone else. This person was his C. How could he punish his C? It was impossible. It was easy to punish ordinary mission enforcers, but such an existence couldn't be punished. Who else can I find? Shu Bai started crying. You're bullying me. I just want to open a restaurant. Okay, he was willing to do that. I tried to stop him, but I couldn't stop him. Ha. Oki laughed out loud and bent over. Shu Bai, I've never seen someone as thick-skinned as you. There's no one else who can say that he sold someone out so righteously. That's his fault. He's blind and only looks at the surface. Oki shook his head with a regretful expression. If it wasn't for him, he could have become a strong person. I thought that he could slowly grow up and be like me. At the very least, he would be in charge of a region. Unfortunately, he's blind. I'm also blind. Oki shook his head. He's gone. You shouldn't be living so comfortably. What? You still want to kill me? Shu Bai was so scared that her face turned pale. She was indeed an insignificant mission enforcer. Moreover, she couldn't even do missions now. Looking at the judge's attitude towards Oki, if Oki really killed her, no one would care. You didn't even tell us your identity back then, Shu Bai said. When she first met Oki, she thought that he was the same as them. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 3406. She thought that Chiu Kuei was just a small mission enforcer like them. What is my identity? I thought that we were friends, Chiu Kuei said. Ning Shu felt that Chiu Kuei was probably too bored, so she hid her identity and played with others. Logically speaking, playing with such a big boss would definitely bring many benefits. However, Shu Bai had offended her. After the judge left, Shu Bai's body became dispirited, and her aura became very weak. What do you want? Nothing much. I just want you to be unable to open a restaurant. If a piece of trash like you can't even open a restaurant, then you are useless. The organization has raised too many pieces of trash. Chiu Kuei shook her head and sighed. After watching for a while, Ning Shu felt that it was meaningless. It was time to clarify things. He asked Shu Bai, did you participate in this matter? Shu Bai shook her head. City Lord, I didn't. I really didn't participate. I just didn't remind you. I didn't harm you. Chiu Kuei smiled and said, Shu Bai, you're really a liar. 10 sentences that you say are all lies. Chiu Kuei said to Ning Shu, if you feel like you've been cheated, then you've definitely been cheated by her. I'm 100% sure that she can abandon others for her own benefit. She's just a selfish person. Shu Bai said hatefully, I am selfish. Which one of you doesn't know that? Do you dare to say that you are someone who will give up everything for the sake of the world? We are selfish because we want to protect our own things. We don't want to share them. However, your selfishness is based on sacrificing others for your own benefit. Ning Shu looked at Shu Bai unkindly. So you are saying that you are involved in this matter? Don't listen to her. I really didn't participate in this matter. At most, I was just a bystander. I didn't do anything to harm you. But you later took over this restaurant. How did this restaurant come about? Maybe you should ask someone about it, Ning Shu said indifferently. Shu Bai's face turned ugly. She looked for Ning Shu because she wanted Ning Shu to help her. In the end, there was another person who wanted to cause trouble for her. It was all Oki's fault. Previously, Ning Shu didn't know Shu Bai's character. At most, he thought that Shu Bai was just a bystander and didn't remind him. Reminding her was a favor, but not reminding her was a duty. Ning Shu just didn't want to interact with Shu Bai anymore. But now, it seemed like there was a lot of white in the book. There was a need to investigate this. He couldn't just let it go after being schemed against. Ning Shu felt that Shu Bai really had two personalities. On one hand, she said that she wanted to worship and protect her, but on the other hand, she secretly sold her out. What a showy operation. Shu Bai's expression became more and more desperate. She looked at Ning Shu and Oki. You're bullying the weak. What kind of ability is that? Hee, you already said that I'm bullying the weak because I'm strong, Oki said unscrupulously. You're allowed to scheme against others secretly, but you're not allowed to let others deal with you. Who do you think you are? Oki's sarcasm was very ear-piercing. She stepped on Shu Bai's face and rubbed it against the ground. In front of so many people, she didn't have the slightest intention of giving her any face. Shu Bai's expression turned cold. Then let's fight head-on. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. It doesn't matter. Let's see who dies first. Oki had absolute confidence in her own strength. As for Ning Shu, he couldn't die. Therefore, it was impossible for Shu Bai to drag him down with her. Moreover, Shu Bai's strength had stopped increasing a long time ago. She couldn't do missions and spent all her energy on external things like the restaurant. Besides her soul, which wouldn't die unless she encountered danger, Shu Bai had nothing else. After offending Oki, it was almost impossible for her to open a restaurant in the nomological space. Ning Shu felt that Oki was quite patient. She waited until the nomological space disappeared before making a move. Normally, she couldn't cause trouble for no reason. After all, the nomological space prohibited armed fights. Moreover, Shu Bai spent most of her time in the restaurant. She could only go to the system space. Besides these two places, Shu Bai couldn't go anywhere else. The nomological space had a natural protection for Shu Bai. Now that the nomological space was gone, this space had become an ordinary space. If she didn't fight now, when would she? Ning Shu felt that Oki was testing the organization's bottom line. If the organization didn't do anything, then Shu Bai would have a cruel ending. Ning Shu waited. There should be someone behind Shu Bai. After all, Shu Bai didn't have much strength and needed to find a backer. Shu Bai's backer hadn't appeared yet. If he didn't appear now, then when would he appear? If Shu Bai didn't summon her backer now, she would be done for. Now, she was waiting for Shu Bai's backer. Ning Shu originally came to watch the show. However, he was now trapped. However, Ning Shu was willing to spend some time. After all, he had suffered a loss. He couldn't eat for free. There was no reason to let it go after being schemed against. Fortunately, she and Shu Bai weren't friends. If they were, she would feel terrible after being betrayed. There were more and more onlookers. Ning Shu and Oki were very calm, but Shu Bai was in a bad mood. Many people pointed at Shu Bai and whispered to each other. Shu Bai was filled with hatred. After this incident, her reputation in the nomological city was ruined. If Oki behaved like this, would there still be any business in the future if she behaved like this? She had become a joke. Would she still have business in the future? She was being pointed at by others. Shu Bai looked at Oki. He didn't have you in his heart until he died. He never cared about you. Oki said, you can't hurt me. He didn't have me in his heart, only you. So what? I don't care. I just feel sorry for him. He sacrificed himself for a woman like you. Ning Shu suddenly felt a little good. What happened? Could it be that she sacrificed herself for the person she loved like the Chongsam man's girlfriend? During the confrontation, the Great Gate Planet and the Grand Elder came. The Great Gate Planet? Shu Bai called the Great Gate Planet. Ning Shu laughed. The situation was very obvious. When the Grand Elder saw Ning Shu and Oki, he glanced at them coldly. When Shu Bai saw the Great Gate Planet, she said with a sad face, the two of them caused trouble. They smashed my restaurant and prepared to fight in the restaurant. This time, Shubai directly dragged Ning Shu into the water and complained to the Great Gate Planet. Oki looked at Shubai's performance with her arms crossed. Ning Shu looked at Shubai and didn't say anything. However, he had already sentenced Shubai to death in his heart. Some things were thought to be over, but in the end, such a thing happened. If he didn't do something, he would be sorry for what Shubai and the Great Gate Planet's faction did to him. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 3407. Ning Shu was very calm now. She didn't fight now, right? He couldn't find a reason to punish her. As for the restaurant, she didn't do it. Zhu Menxing appeared with the Taishu grand uncle. Zhu Menxing also had a headache. He thought that Ning Shu was the only one present. He didn't expect there to be another troublemaker. Xiao Kuei was the person in charge of Area C and had many subordinates. If he brought a group of people to deal with him, he would be in trouble. Zhu Menxing was a little puzzled. How did Shu Bai offend such a person? They were completely unrelated. They were of different social classes. The Taishu grand uncle looked at Xiao Kuei. Do you have nothing to do? Have you finished everything in Area C? Xiao Kuei said, Boss, I'm also a human. I need to rest if I have nothing to do. Also, I came to eat, but the food was so bad that I couldn't control my power. Then, the restaurant became like this. The Taishu grand uncle snorted and looked at Ning Shu. You didn't pay attention to. Ning Shu took a step back and stood in front of the crowd. He said, I was just passing by and wanted to watch the show. Then, this person dragged me into the mess. He wanted my holy whip and wanted to steal my things. If you don't believe me, you can ask Xiao Kuei. Xiao Kuei nodded without thinking. It's like this. Shu Bai wanted to steal something from a customer. No, it's not like this. Shu Bai was so anxious that he was sweating. He hurriedly waved his hand and said to Zhu Menxing, No, they colluded to frame me. Zhu Menxing was speechless. What could he say? He could understand why Ning Shu wanted to find trouble with Shu Bai. After all, Shu Bai had done something. However, the boss of the area came to find trouble with a small fry. This Shu Bai really knew how to cause trouble. Why would I frame you? Did I eat too much? I have a lot of things to do every day. Why would I frame you? Xiao Kuei said matter-of-factly. Ning Shu said, Me too. I'm busy too. I'm busy with missions. Zhu Menxing said to the Taishu grand uncle, Judge, do you want to investigate? The grand elder pulled out his gun and pointed it at Shu Bai's forehead. Shu Bai was scared out of her wits. She collapsed to the ground. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Shu Bai felt extremely wronged. It was clearly someone else who had come to cause trouble for her, yet they wanted to kill her. Shu Bai was so terrified that even her soul was trembling. As long as the spear came down, she would vanish into thin air. What right do they have to kill me? They were clearly the ones who bullied me. The judges are not fair at all. It's not fair at all. Shu Bai covered her face and cried. Her shoulders heaved up and down, making her look especially pitiful. Everyone sympathized with the weak. In addition, Ning Shu and Oki looked very strong, and it felt like they were bullies. The onlookers started to sympathize with Shu Bai. Moreover, Shu Bai was a delicate and pitiful woman who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. Zhu Menxing hurriedly advised, Judge, this matter still needs to be discussed. Judge, why are there so many people watching? On the surface, Shu Bai was the one who was being bullied. Moreover, the two of them were ganging up to bully her. Humans were easily controlled by their emotions. Poor Shu Bai. As for the truth of the matter, it was too late. Alright, everyone was an actress with excellent acting skills. Was she pitiful? Ning Shu's eyes immediately became hazy with tears. She said to Shu Bai while crying, "Shu Bai, I treated you as a friend, but you schemed against me behind my back and ganged up with others to steal my things. I don't dare to have a friend like you. Although you are heartless, I can't be unrighteous. I will plead for you, but in the future, we will go our separate ways." Ning Shu looked at the grand-uncle with tears in her eyes. Before she could speak, the grand-uncle glanced at her face that was full of tears and snot. "Go away." Ning Shu didn't hesitate. "All right." Then, he stood on the other side. Although Shu Bai stole things in the city, she didn't manage to steal anything. "Why don't we just forget about it this time?" Shu Bai looked at Ning Shu with red eyes full of resentment. How was he pleading for her? He was clearly trying to pin the crime on her. Steal things. When did she steal things? It was really easy to pin a crime on someone. Shu Bai's figure became even more withered. She probably couldn't escape this calamity. Just like that, these people spoke one after another, twisting the truth of the matter. And she had to face being obliterated. Why? Why? Why are you doing this to me? You are living well now. Yet, she was obliterated. Even if she had done something, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, these people wanted to kill her. Shu Bai made a final struggle. She looked at the Great Gate planet pleadingly. The truth is not like this. They were the ones who caused trouble for me. It was, Chiu Kuei interrupted Shu Bai. "Judge, there is a black shop in the law space. This boss actually wanted to do evil and steal things from his customers. I was too impulsive. That's why I smashed the restaurant in a fit of anger. I was wrong in this matter, and I am willing to accept punishment. However, having such a black spot in the law space is really a malignant tumor." Ning Shu blinked. This Chiu Kuei was good. The two of them supported each other's words. The Grand Elder glanced at the two of them and said, "Don't think that you can do whatever you want in the law space because there are no laws. Armed fighting is prohibited in the Law City." The Grand Elder was talking about Ning Shu and Long John's. He was also talking to the other mission enforcers. The Great Gate planet felt that it was no longer suitable for him to get involved in this situation, so he didn't say anything. Otherwise, he would also be trapped. Ning Shu said to the Grand Elder, "Judge, I think that there must be someone behind such a malignant tumor in the law space that has survived for so long. With such a malignant tumor, who knows how many mission enforcers have suffered? No matter how many things have been stolen, they don't dare to speak up." Chiu Kuei was speechless. Too much drama. The Grand Elder glanced at Ning Shu. His gaze was very penetrating. He also saw through Ning Shu's intentions. The Great Gate planet felt like he had fucked 10 cactuses. He still wanted to take him off. Ning Shu said to the despairing Shu Bai, "If you can tell us who is the mastermind behind you, who is supporting you, and where did you send the stolen items to, you might be able to get a pardon if you explain it to the judge. A tainted witness is still a witness." According to Shu Bai's personality, if there was a chance of survival, it wouldn't matter even if she sold others. For Ning Shu, if he could drag someone down, he could drag them down. If he couldn't drag them down, it wouldn't be a loss to her. She was always being schemed against, so she had to fight back. However, she didn't expect that Shu Bai was actually a member of the Great Gate planet's faction. He actually asked her to be his protection. Shu Bai's heart was already numb. What stealing? It was completely unrealistic. She was clearly just doing the restaurant business honestly. When did she steal things? She even stole things for others. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor, Nyoibo Studio. Chapter 34:11. The killing intent was very cold. Ning Shu didn't care at all. The resentment between them was getting deeper and deeper. I can see that you're not happy, but I'm happy. Xiao Kuei said to Ning Shu, happy cooperation. She directly killed Shu Bai. Ning Shu said, it's okay, it's okay. I'm very happy. Xiao Kuei said, Shu Bai is dead. Her restaurant is ownerless. Do you want to take it over? Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Don't you want to take it over? Xiao Kuei shook her head. I don't want to waste time on two small restaurants. Okay, rich and overbearing. Ning Shu also didn't want these two restaurants. After all, she had to do missions and deal with star stones when she had nothing to do. She might even go for a stroll in the void. Otherwise, she would go to the void to look for treasures. She wouldn't have time to manage the restaurants. People who did business in lost cities were bound to sacrifice some of their time. However, no matter how small a mosquito's leg was, it was still meat. Ning Shu thought about it and still took over the two restaurants. If Shu Bai, who had disappeared, knew that her restaurant was so despised, she would die. She probably wouldn't die in peace. After all, the restaurant was Shu Bai's everything. Shu Bai couldn't do missions anymore. She could only manage the restaurant and find the meaning of life from the restaurant. Otherwise, she would be so idle that she didn't know what to do. She would be in a completely useless state. Ning Shu thought that since there was no owner, she could take it and not manage it herself. If she let someone else manage it, she might even get some merit. It was also good to earn some snacks for the skeletons. Zhu Menxing was dumbfounded. She didn't even take the restaurant. In any case, Shu Bai was someone they protected. Now that Shu Bai was dead, it was reasonable for Zhu Menxing to take the restaurant. Now that Zhu Menxing was gone, Ning Shu had a chance. Of course, Ning Shu didn't hesitate to take it. When Zhu Menxing came back to her senses, the restaurant was already hers. The list had already made Zhu Menxing angry. Two restaurants could make up for a little of the loss. Now that she didn't even have the restaurant, she would probably be even angrier. Oki spoke a few words with Ning Shu before leaving. Although Shu Bai was already dead, Oki didn't seem happy at all. She probably had a good relationship with Shu Bai in the past. Something had happened. Something must have happened to him. As for this matter, Ning Shu didn't want to care about it. This was the first time he met Xiao Kuei, and it wasn't good to pry into other people's privacy. Ning Shu walked into the restaurant. The restaurant was in a mess, smashed by the okra. Some of the employees were cleaning up, and when they saw Ning Shu, their eyes were filled with fear. Clearly, the staff had seen everything that had happened in front of the restaurant. Ning Shu clapped his hands and gathered all the clerks in the restaurant. He said, from today onwards, I am the new owner of this restaurant. Because I'm often not around, I need to find a person in charge who is more familiar with the operation of the restaurant. The clerks looked at each other and elected a person to be the manager of the restaurant. Ning Shu took the two restaurants for himself. Then, he asked someone to help him manage them. He was a shopkeeper who didn't do anything. If he had nothing to do, he would come over to check the accounts. Zhu Menxing appeared in the restaurant. When he saw Ning Shu drinking tea with his legs crossed and looking at the clerks busily going in and out, he couldn't help but frown. Zhu Menxing only remembered about the two restaurants halfway. Since Shu Bai was dead, the ownership of the restaurants was a problem. Ning Shu smiled and greeted Zhu Menxing. Zhu Menxing's face was livid. You took over the two restaurants? Ning Shu corrected him. How can you say that I took them over? After Shu Bai died, they are ownerless. Since they are ownerless, anyone can have them. First come, first served. You are late. They are already mine. Zhu Menxing sneered and said, don't you know that every store has signed a contract with the system? It was the system that signed the contract with Shu Bai. The restaurants are not yours. Ning Shu said leisurely, Shu Bai is dead. This contract is automatically cancelled. Now that I have signed a contract with the system, they are mine. Ning Shu said that she had signed the contract, but in fact, she hadn't. She asked Dan Qing to quickly contact the main system and settle the contract. Then, the ownership of the stores would be hers. Dan Qing said to Ning Shu, the main system replied. If you want to sign the contract, you need to pay a deposit. Then, the 2 restaurants will be yours. Then, the profits of the restaurants will be taxed. Well, it wasn't exploitation. It was a fake organization. She still needed to pay a deposit. Ning Shu was a little scared. She hadn't made any money yet, but she had to invest so much. Of course, she knew that she had to invest in doing business, but she was doing this for fun. However, when she saw Zhu Menxing's constipated face, she decided to take it. As long as the 2 restaurants didn't fall into Zhu Menxing's hands, she would make a profit. Ning Shu decided to sign the contract and pay a deposit. This way, she would also be a person with a business. At least, she would be a small boss. At the same time, she could discuss Zhu Menxing and his faction. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Ning Shu said to Zhu Menxing, I have already signed a contract with the organization. You have no chance. Don't be angry. Huh, angry. Zhu Menxing took a deep breath. Do you have to be so disgusting? Ning Shu said, why? Do you think I am taking the restaurants to disgust you? You are thinking too much. I want to make money. How can you be more important than making money? Thinking too much. However, it was really cool to see Zhu Menxing's face like this. Zhu Menxing didn't want to stay here for a second longer. He directly jumped and left. Ning Shu smiled and asked the staff to clean up the restaurant. Then, she returned to the system space and signed the contract with the main system. After signing the contract, the restaurant was hers. However, the contract was a bit of a scam. It was a tyrannical contract. The deposit was high and the taxes were heavy. How could she make money like this? Well, she shouldn't have too much hope for the restaurant. It would be good enough if she could earn some money for the skeleton. Ning Shu signed the contract and paid the deposit. After the restaurant was cleaned up, she would reopen it. This way, when she wanted to eat in the future, she could go to her own restaurant and eat whatever she wanted. It was very convenient. It was not cheap to eat at other restaurants. However, if she ate at her own restaurant, she would have to pay the bill and a part of it would go into her own pocket. This was very good. However, the premise was that her restaurant would not lose money. If it lost money, she really couldn't continue to open it. As long as she didn't lose money, Ning Shu didn't expect anything else. There was also a place to stay in the Law City. In the past, when she was still the Law Incarnation, she could still stay in the City Lord's mansion. The law collapsed, and the City Lord's mansion no longer belonged to her. Should she hold an opening ceremony and invite familiar people over for a meal? It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 34:12. The restaurant was quickly cleaned up and was just waiting for its reopening. Ning Shu thought about it and still felt that he should hold an opening ceremony to at least let others know that the restaurant had a new owner. Ning Shu asked the kitchen to prepare more food. He had to hold some promotions to attract more people, right? After the restaurant stabilized, Ning Shu would be a hands-off boss. The next step was to invite people to a meal, but this was very awkward. Ning Shu thought about it and realized that there were not many people he could invite. He casually sent a message to the group, saying when the restaurant was going to open, and he welcomed everyone to attend the opening ceremony. Come and eat. As for whether they came or not, it didn't matter. He sent a message to the group to fish. The Cheongsam man sent a message to Ning Shu, you actually opened a restaurant? I picked up 2 restaurants and started them again. It was better to open a restaurant. After all, everything was ready-made and there was no hope of making much money. You have to find time to come later. Ning Shu had already imagined that his opening ceremony would be sparse and there would not be many people coming. After all, he didn't usually maintain a good relationship. It was fine if no one came. It would be good if the restaurant staff could sit together and have a meal. Ning Shu was very relaxed. It didn't matter if there were people or not. When it was time for the opening ceremony, Ning Shu lit 2 strings of firecrackers to make it lively and auspicious. When things were done, he went to do the mission. The Cheongsam man was the first to come, carrying a box in his hand. A gift. Ning Shu smiled and accepted the box. Since I'm already here, why bring anything? Ning Shu said as he opened it as fast as he could. He was very surprised and felt like he had received a birthday gift. It was a silver crystal the size of a fingernail. After staring at this crystal for a long time, one would feel dizzy and have an illusion. Ning Shu shook his head and shook off the feeling of space-time confusion. He asked, "What is this? Why haven't I seen it before?" "It's the power of the law. I was lucky enough to condense this." The Cheongsam man opened his fan with a schwa sound. He felt pity for the ignorant Ning Shu. "Thank me. With this thing, you will be able to comprehend the laws of time much faster. Normally, I wouldn't give it to anyone who begs me." Ning Shu laughed like a goose. "Not bad, not bad. Thank you, but I don't know why. Laws can condense into something like this?" She was also someone who had a law imprint before, so why didn't she think of condensing something like this? Could it be that with this thing, one would be able to comprehend the laws as easily as using cheats? Then, one would be able to comprehend them very quickly. "What are you thinking? You're thinking too much." The man in the Cheongsam sneered and knocked Ning Shu's forehead heavily with his fan. "If you can ascend to the heavens with this thing, then you definitely won't be tortured to death by the laws. I can only say that this thing is equivalent to teaching. It can help people take fewer detours. One must comprehend it very deeply to be able to condense this thing. I was going to give this to someone else, but I'll give it to you first. This gift is really big. Thank you." She hadn't expected such a reward from the opening ceremony. The man in the Cheongsam walked into the restaurant and asked, "Is no one else here? Am I the first to arrive? Don't tell me no one came to your opening ceremony." If it weren't for the gift given by the man in the Cheongsam, Ning Shu would have beaten him to death. Ning Shu thought that no one would come. Not long after, Wan came over and gave him a gift. Ning Shu greeted Ah Wan. Ah Wan and the man in the Cheongsam sat at the same table. The man in the Cheongsam immediately tidied up his clothes and picked up his fan to act flirtatious. He was probably trying to flirt with Ah Wan. However, Wan only drank her tea and ignored him. The man in the Cheongsam was throwing flirtatious glances at a blind person. Gradually, quite a few people came over. What surprised Ning Shu was that there were actually quite a few law incarnations that came, and they even brought gifts. This surprised Ning Shu a little. After all, she didn't have a good relationship with this group of nomological incarnations. She knew that the man in the Cheongsam would come over sometimes. Ah Wan might come over, but she might not. However, she didn't expect that there would be people among the nomological incarnations. After all, they were guests. Ning Shu still welcomed them warmly and accepted their gifts. Although she didn't know what the gifts were, they were sincere. The friction in the past was in the past. As long as others didn't find trouble with her, she wouldn't constantly think about insignificant matters. When some of the law incarnations faced Ning Shu, their expressions weren't very comfortable. But when they saw Ning Shu's smiling face, they felt a little more at ease. Ning Shu didn't expect so many people. Just the nomological incarnations alone numbered in the dozens. She got the kitchen to prepare more food. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough to eat. Ning Shu stood at the door to receive the guests and revealed a standard 8-tooth smile. The silver-haired man walked over with a book and stopped in front of Ning Shu. He took out a small box that was tied with a ribbon bow. Ning Shu was speechless. He didn't expect the main system to come. He felt rather flattered. Ning Shu stretched out his hand like a waiter and said with a flattering expression, "Sir, please come in." After the silver-haired man went in, Ning Shu quickly opened the box and saw a mark in the shape of a water droplet. Ning Shu's hand trembled. Damn, is this the water nomological incarnation? The water nomological imprint? Didn't the water nomological imprint collapse? How did it end up in the silver-haired man's hands? Ning Shu didn't hesitate and fused with the nomological imprint. The nomological imprint was back. Awesome! Ning Shu couldn't believe that it was so generous. After the silver-haired man came, the grand-uncle also came. He took out a box that was exactly the same as the silver-haired man's from the pocket of his windbreaker. Even the ribbon bow was the same. Ning Shu felt that the silver-haired man must have helped prepare this gift. The silver-haired man had a nomological imprint. What was inside the grand-uncle's? It was just the opening of a small restaurant. What were these big shots doing here? My humble abode is really illuminated. It's really dazzling. Ning Shu stretched out his hands to receive the gift. The grand-uncle's fingers loosened, and the gift fell into Ning Shu's hands. Ning Shu resisted the urge to open it and said with a smile, "Please come in. There's good wine and food inside." As soon as the grand-uncle left, Ning Shu quickly opened the box. When he saw what was inside, his hands trembled uncontrollably. There were several nomological imprints lying inside. The silver-haired man had given him water. Now, there was earth and wood. There was also a spoon-shaped prophecy law. Her eyes were probably playing tricks on her. If this was true, then she could have a birthday party in the future. That way, she could receive a lot of gifts. And didn't these laws already collapse? Were these new ones or the ones she had before? Chapter 34:13. Anyway, it didn't matter anymore. Ning Shu directly fused with them. This way, even if they wanted to shamelessly take it back, they couldn't. Ning Shu was a little scared. People who had always been stingy suddenly became so generous. This didn't seem like the style of the organization. Ning Shu fused the 3 law imprints. Together with the law of water given by the silver-haired man, she had a total of 4. In addition to the thunder law imprint that had not been fused, she had 5 law imprints. Why did she feel a little distrustful? She felt like she had the whole world. No matter what the other party's ideas were, her strength had increased. Ning Shu was so happy that she wanted to sway, and her smile became even sweeter. After that, she received a group of guests, and the people who came all brought small gifts. After being a mission enforcer for so long, this was the first time Ning Shu received so many gifts. With so many people coming to her opening ceremony, Ning Shu suspected that she had hired extras to create a grand opening and a bustling scene. There were some people Ning Shu didn't even know, but they had all come to participate. Her reputation had spread far and wide. No, her reputation had spread far and wide. Here, I heard that you opened a restaurant. The greedy wolf star gave Ning Shu a box. Even the greedy wolf star came. Ning Shu frowned. She felt that things weren't simple. Okay, thank you. Please come in, Ning Shu said to the greedy wolf star. These big shots wouldn't care about a restaurant. It was insignificant. Maybe the money the restaurant earned in a month wasn't as much as the money earned from handling star stones a few times and picking up fragments. These big shots didn't even want to do this kind of voluntary work, let alone a small restaurant. The greedy wolf star walked in slowly. And he, who was wearing a flowery shirt and had her hair waxed, also came. As soon as he came closer, Ning Shu could smell the ecstasy of blood mixed with fragrance on his body. To be honest, and he like this was really greasy. And he gave a small gift and went in without saying anything. Were these big shots very free recently? How could they have time to attend a small opening ceremony? No matter what, it was good that she had a gift. Ning Shu arranged a private room for these big shots. He couldn't let these big shots be stared at like monkeys in the hall. Ning Shu felt that this was probably the happiest moment in his life. He received so many gifts that his hands went limp. It couldn't be any better. His Excellency came with the little demon. He was wearing a tuxedo and a bow tie, looking very elegant and calm. The little demon was wearing shoulder straps and a small bow tie, and the bow tie was a very flirtatious red. The little devil walked in front of Ning Shu and handed him a bottle. The bottle was about the size of a can, and it was filled with a gray liquid. All of them were soul force. Ning Shu was very envious. Right now, she really needed soul force. With so much soul force, she would probably have to do more than 10 missions to obtain it. Heavens, the little devil looked so cute. Even Ning Shu felt that it was cute when it raised its chin and looked down on others. It was tolerable. Here you go. The little devil handed the bottle to Ning Shu. She looked at the restaurant and said with disdain, "This place is really small. Are there any guests? If it was me, I wouldn't come to this kind of place to eat." His Excellency patted the little devil's shoulder and said, "You can't say that. Humans like to hear nice words, you know." The little demon said, "Oh, your restaurant is pretty good." Ning Shu didn't want to argue with a child, so she let the two of them go in. Ning Shu thought that it wouldn't be very lively, but in fact it was very lively. She knew and didn't know people came. Many people she didn't know came. Ning Shu didn't have any impression of them in her mind. There were some people who often met when dealing with star stones, but they basically didn't talk to each other. Why did people who didn't know her come? After receiving the guests, Ning Shu stood at the door of the restaurant for a while. After making sure that no one was coming, she walked into the restaurant. There were a lot of people in the hall. Ning Shu said directly, "Everyone, eat and drink well. The restaurant will be free for you for the next 3 days." Ning Shu was very happy to receive so many gifts. But after 3 days, it wouldn't be free. That's how rich and powerful I am. Ning Shu greeted the guests in the hall and then went upstairs to the private room. The big shots were all sitting in the big private room. They didn't talk much. Compared with the lively scene downstairs, it was really quiet here. Ning Shu asked, "Are these dishes to your taste?" The silver-haired man, "I don't eat this kind of thing." "Senior grand uncle, it's not delicious." The little devil, "Why do you treat the bodies of living creatures like this? Steaming, boiling, frying, and dismembering them?" "His Excellency, you can't say that." "And it's a little greasy," he said while eating. Ning Shu thought these people were probably here to cause trouble. But she knew very well what these people were like. She would be asking for trouble if she argued with them. Ning Shu just said, "Everyone, eat more." She didn't like to stay in this private room. Staying with a group of boring people was suffocating silence and awkwardness. No matter how lively the atmosphere was, these people couldn't bring it up. She couldn't bring these people along. Ning Shu had thought that these big shots had come to this small opening ceremony to say something, but after it was over, these people left. They didn't say anything else, which made Ning Shu feel that these people were just here to participate in the event. This didn't make sense. At this gathering, Ning Shu knew a lot of people, including law incarnations and big shots who dealt with fragments together. They talked with each other for a while and had a preliminary understanding and impression of each other. So many people wanted to get to know her. Ning Shu didn't think it was possible. It was probably because these people saw her value and wanted to make friends with her. Regardless of whether these people wanted something from her or not, it proved that she was a valuable person in the eyes of others and someone they wanted to make friends with. This was a good thing. The man in the Cheongsam stayed until the end and said to Ning Shu, "Why did the judge and the main system come to the opening ceremony?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't know." The man in the Cheongsam sized up Ning Shu. "Is there something I don't know about you?" "There are a lot of things you don't know about me," Ning Shu said directly. The man in the Cheongsam didn't dwell on this matter. He said to Ning Shu, "Do you want to go look for treasures together after this?" Ning Shu said happily, "I'm not free. I'm going to open the gifts now. I've received so many gifts that my hands are sore." The man in the Cheongsam looked at Ning Shu from the corner of his eyes. "Someone like you still wants to attend your gathering?" As he said that, he shook his head. "That's not possible. You should be the kind of person who doesn't get along well with people." Chapter 34:14. She really wanted to spit a mouthful of salt soda at the man in the Cheongsam. What did he mean by she was not popular? Even if she was not popular, people would still approach her if she had enough value. She was not convinced, but she endured it. Ning Shu said, "Are you done eating? If you're done, you can leave. Give my staff less work. You still have to serve tea and water here. Sai, I just gave you a big gift. You were smiling before, but now you're fucking looking down on me." The manager of the restaurant made an account with Ning Shu, saying that if it was free for the next 3 days, it would be a huge loss. Ning Shu said, "It's okay. I'll subsidize it." The things and subsidies that she received were earned by herself. Ning Shu did not expect the 4 law imprints to return to her body. The organization was so generous that Ning Shu was dumbfounded. And it did not take a single cent. This was no longer the organization she knew. After being abused by the organization for so many times, one day, the organization suddenly plucked a feather from her. Ning Shu was overwhelmed by the favor and shed tears of gratitude. She was probably going to get Stockholm's disease from being abused by the organization. Ning Shu opened the gifts. There were all kinds of things, all kinds of world origins, weapons, and all kinds of dazzling things. Some were good-looking, some were practical. Every gift had a card with the signature of the person who gave it. Ning Shu memorized the names of these people. When she interacted with them in the future, she would not forget their names. This was very awkward. The most valuable thing was probably the 4 law imprints. The gift of the grand uncle was really outstanding. The silver-haired man only gave one of the 4 law imprints, and the rest were given by the grand uncle. It really made the grand uncle proud. The silver-haired man was really a considerate person. Ning Shu put the gifts in the box and drank all the soul power in the jar. After removing the impurities and fusing them into her soul, Ning Shu's soul became much more solid. Ning Shu pinched her own soul. It was soft and fluffy, like jelly. She was finally a little stronger. Her soul had always been weak and strong for various reasons, so there was no time for it to develop stably. Thinking about his soul, he felt wronged. With the little devil's gift, Ning Shu didn't have to rush to complete the quest. After all, doing quests was to strengthen his soul. Now that his soul was slightly stronger than before, he could take it slow. Ning Shu opened the chat system and asked the main system, "Why did you give me the law imprint again?" "A present for you," the silver-haired Sang said. "Ning Shu. Tell me the truth." The silver-haired mulberry replied, "Oh, the organization won't care about the city of law, but this place seems to be a place where mission enforcers interact with each other, so it still needs someone to manage it. That's why the city lord needs to maintain the stability and harmony of a city of law." Ning Shu was speechless. Holy crap. It felt like the organization was about to give up on this place. However, the grand uncle acted like that before, giving people the impression that they were not allowed to cause trouble. If they caused trouble, they would be killed without mercy. At the same time, they also made a fortune. Who would have thought that the organization was too lazy to care about this place? However, mission enforcers needed a place to communicate with each other, and it still needed someone to manage it. Otherwise, this place would be turned upside down. Ning Shu asked, "Is there a reward?" In any case, you still have to maintain the law and order of the city, right? Because there were no laws, the city lord didn't need to maintain the barrier, so there wasn't even any tax. However, if the city lord was needed to maintain law and order, shouldn't there be some nutrition fees, heat subsidies, and so on to comfort him? Moreover, the most bitter thing was that she had to maintain 4 cities at once. If she fused with the law imprint of thunder, Ning Shu smiled slightly. 5 law imprints. Then she would have to run around if she had nothing to do. Ning Shu felt that he had to find a comparison to feel better. It seemed that A1 had more than 10 imprints, which meant that she had to be responsible for more than 10 cities. In the past, the city lord of the City of Law only needed to look after the barrier. Moreover, mission enforcers who came to the City of Law knew that they couldn't fight. It would destroy the barrier, and everyone would be finished together. But now that there were no laws, there weren't so many concerns. He always felt that the City of Law would slowly become chaotic and become a lawless zone. As long as the basic peace on the surface was still there, it was fine as long as the entire space didn't collapse. It seemed that being the city lord was definitely a hard job. If he wanted to give a reward, he should at least give a token of appreciation. The silver-haired man said, "Isn't the power given by the imprint enough? You still want a reward? You can't be so greedy, understand?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't understand. Could she take the law imprint off now?" She thought that the organization seemed to have changed and was a little moved. But now, moved my ass. This was clearly making her work for free, and it was the kind that had no time limit. She had fused with the law imprint, so she had to be responsible for a city of law. Whose family was causing trouble that she had to be a mediator? What was all this about? The silver-haired man said, "There are no benefits on the surface, but there will be shops in the dark. Don't be short-sighted. The power of the law imprint must be very comfortable. Isn't it good to have great power?" Ning Shu said, "I'm not happy right now." The silver-haired man said, "If you don't want to, you can return the imprint and find someone else. No need. I'm willing to sacrifice myself to help everyone. There's something I need your help with." The silver-haired man said, "Go ahead. Can you give me a copy of the specific rules of the City of Law? I have to post these rules." She wanted everyone to know what to do and what not to do. With self-awareness, she had much less trouble. Generally speaking, the City of Law was very peaceful, and the rule of no fighting was deeply rooted in the people's hearts. Besides, the Taishu had come so fiercely before, so there probably wouldn't be many people who would dare to cause trouble for the time being. Okay. Ning Shu thought for a moment and said, "Thank you for the gift. I'm very happy." The silver-haired man said, "That's good. Do the mission the organization gave you well. That's the greatest reward for the organization." Ning Shu curled his lips and said, "Yes, I'll work hard without complaint and do my best until I die. I don't have myself in my heart, only the great organization. The organization will lead me to a brilliant future." Ning Shu received the rules of the City of Law and opened the Law Incarnation Group. The group was talking about the City Lord being in charge of the city's security. Clearly, they had all received a notification from the main system. Like Ning Shu, the Law Incarnation was dissatisfied with the fact that he had to work for free and not be paid at all. At least there used to be taxes, but now there was nothing. He still had to work hard for the city. It was only right to do a good job. If he didn't do a good job, he would be useless. Chapter 34:15. It was hard to be a man without money. But what could they do? No matter how many opinions they had, the organization wouldn't care at all. Moreover, there were still a few thousand law incarnations, and there weren't even a few thousand people now. Therefore, these people's opinions couldn't make a splash at all, and the organization wouldn't care at all. The group of law incarnations was wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. They looked really pitiful. Ning Shu also felt that the law incarnations were probably really broken. Previously, there were no laws, so the law incarnations didn't need to maintain the barrier. In the end, there was no tax. Now, they had to maintain the harmony and stability of the city. There was no reward. This was really very hurtful. Ning Shu didn't say anything. In any case, she didn't have any objections. After all, she had obtained a few law imprints. She had lost them and regained them. If she continued to complain, she would be said to be obedient. It was just that the management of a few cities was really a little difficult. Ah Wan, who had more than 10 law imprints, was probably very worried now. If she found someone to help manage the city's stability, she would have to pay. Who would be willing to do it without money? She didn't have money, and she had to pay for it herself. If she really set up a team to manage the city, would she create urban management? Urban management? She was sure it wasn't a protection fee. Ning Shu felt that if she set up a team to manage the city, it would be even more chaotic. Ning Shu opened the chat system, wanting to ask Ah Wan. Ah Wan's answer was, "I don't know. We'll talk about it when the time comes. If anyone dares to cause trouble with me, I'll kill them. No one will dare to cause trouble in the future." When Ah Wan spoke, her killing intent was ferocious. Ning Shu thought about it. After all, there weren't many people who dared to cause trouble, especially when the grand uncle came to make an example of them. This matter should have already spread. With the grand uncle's arrival, the pressure on all the law incarnations was reduced. Not many people would dare to cause trouble. Ning Shu felt that she should set up a contact point in every law city. If someone caused trouble in the city, someone would inform her and she could immediately rush over. Ning Shu first went to the Water Law City. There were 2 restaurants in the Water Law City. He asked the managers of the restaurants to inform them if anyone caused trouble in the Law City. As for cities governed by the laws of earth and wood, Ning Shu did not know anyone in these cities. Usually, he would go to these cities quite often. Who should be the contact point? It was a little awkward. We'll talk about it later. Ning Shu strolled around Earth City. There were still some remnants of the law of Earth's power, and the entire city gave off a very heavy feeling. The buildings in every city were the same, and the layout was the same. The only difference was that the laws were different. Ning Shu hadn't found anyone he was familiar with in these cities for the time being, so he could only put out a notice. If anyone dared to cause trouble in the Law City, they would definitely not be able to bear the consequences. Everyone is also welcome to report, and there will be rewards for reporting. In short, this was the only way. However, very few people would have the guts to cause trouble in a city of laws. After settling the matters of the Law City, Ning Shu returned to the system space and continued to open the gifts. Anhe's gift was a meson space filled with star stones. There were both big and small ones. It seemed like in Anhe's heart, she was a person who talked about star stones every day. But now, Ning Shu's peerless martial arts had changed, and he no longer needed star rocks. However, if there was one, Ning Shu would accept it. Maybe if he needed it in the future, he wouldn't have to ask others for help. The generosity of the greedy wolf star really exceeded Ning Shu's imagination, because the greedy wolf star gave her a seed, which was quite familiar in short. It was the seed of the world tree. Didn't the greedy wolf star keep the seed of the world tree for his own use? Or were these big shots all very rich, so rich that they were overflowing with oil? However, This seed gave Ning Shu a very old feeling, and its vitality was very weak. The probability of this seed germinating was less than 10%. Although it was a waste seed, there was still a 1% chance that it could germinate, which required luck. The greedy wolf star was really generous. Did this guy still want to pull her into his faction? Ning Shu's heart was really itching to move. If she held a birthday party now, she might even receive a gift. However, Ning Shu just thought about it, mainly because it was the first time she had received so many gifts. No matter what the purpose of these people was, whether it was to befriend her or for other purposes, Ning Shu was fearless. Dan Qing said, "The main system wants you to process the star stones. Do it 1,000 times for free." Ning Shu rolled her eyes. Okay. Ning Shu went to the place where the plane was broken and changed shifts with a big shot. Ning Shu smiled and greeted the familiar big shot. Ning Shu was a little familiar with the big shots who had come to attend her opening ceremony. Now, she had to start building her connections. Ning Shu started to process the star stones. A pair of military boots appeared in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu looked up and saw Mo Ming. Mo Ming gave Ning Shu a small black box. Mo Ming said, "I heard that you opened a restaurant. I was on a mission and couldn't come. This is a gift for your opening ceremony." Ning Shu immediately threw away the prop in her hand and took the box. She wanted to open it, but Mo Ming immediately said, "Don't open it. Once you open it, the thing inside will die easily." Die? There's a living thing inside? Ning Shu looked at the palm-sized box. What kind of cute thing is inside? Ning Shu asked, "What's inside?" The initial power of heaven and earth. It's alive, Mo Ming said. Ning Shu was embarrassed. Why was he so ignorant? It's the power of life. I heard that mission enforcers have to build worlds. When I was patrolling the plane, I found a world that was creating life. I made some. This thing looks so precious. I really want to make a birthday party. I'm going to celebrate my birthday. Come and join me. Ning Shu said, "Thank you. I don't know much about this. Just treat this thing as a cell, like bacteria. Then, expand and multiply. It's the initial power of all life." Ning Shu blinked and didn't say anything. Mo Ming thought for a while and said, "It's like kimchi. If there's some brine, this jar of kimchi will mature faster than normal kimchi." Ning Shu understood now. This thing is so precious. If there's a world that already has the environment for life, and I put this thing in the world, it will be able to create life very quickly. Actually, the world has to evolve slowly to create such power. If I have this thing, I can save the time of evolution. Thinking about it this way, this thing is really a peerless treasure. Ning Shu said to Mo Ming, "Thank you. It's very precious." Mo Ming shook his head and said, "It's not useful to me. It's not precious." Ning Shu felt that Mo Ming was really rich. Chapter 34:16. Even if Mo Ming didn't need it, the other mission enforcers could use it. If they sold it, they would definitely be able to make a lot of money. Ning Shu smiled and accepted it. "Thank you. I like it very much." Mo Ming nodded. "As long as you like it." Ning Shu saw that Mo Ming had more badges on his chest. The color and pattern of the epaulets on his shoulders had changed too. Ning Shu asked, "You got promoted again?" Mo Ming just said, "I do some small missions and slowly accumulate it." Ning Shu saw the dazzling luck on Mo Ming. Such a thick destiny really made people envious, jealous, and hateful. Ning Shu smiled sincerely. "Congratulations. Who knows, you might become a general soon. Like he, leading the army on expeditions." Ning Shu asked, other than protecting the plane, your army has other missions. Yes. There are many races in the void that will affect the plane. We actually have to go and exterminate such races too, Mo Ming said. Oh, Ning Shu said, expressing that it was also a blessing to be able to do missions safely in the plane. If there's nothing else, I'll go do it, Mo Ming said. Ning Shu nodded. Go do it. Don't delay your own matters. Ning Shu carefully kept the box. He didn't dare to open it casually. If he opened it, the power inside would dissipate. That would be heartbreaking. Mo Ming looked at Ning Shu's careful look and said, out of the billions of worlds, many are actually evolving. If you want to find such power, you can still find it. Ning Shu knew that Mo Ming told him not to be nervous. But she was nervous. If she bought this thing herself, she might not be able to afford it even if she sold everything she had. Seeing Mo Ming's relaxed look, Ning Shu wanted to cry. Why was he always so poor? Everyone else was rich and powerful. Ning Shu also wanted to spend money. Spending money was very happy. Ning Shu shook his head. No, no, no. I'm not nervous. I'm not nervous. I'm not nervous about this box at all. I'm really not. Mo Ming, then I'll be leaving. Ning Shu waved. Goodbye. Be careful and take care of yourself. If the soul was annihilated, then the soul would scatter and there would be no future. Their lives were very important. As long as they were alive, there would be endless possibilities. Especially for souls like them, they only had this one chance in their lives. Mo Ming, I know. Once Mo Ming left, Ning Shu couldn't help but smile. Oh my, he had received so many gifts. It couldn't be any better. Each one was more precious than the last. Like, joy. Ning Shu hummed a little tune as he processed the star stones. Because his soul was a little stronger, he didn't feel tired even after processing the star stones for a long time. Ning Shu wanted to use up all the 1,000 times for free. That way, he would be able to pay off his debt and be free of debt. Even if his soul was slightly stronger, Ning Shu still felt that his kidneys were weak and he was a little tired after doing it 1,000 times. After he was done, he asked the main system to arrange for someone to come over and take over his shift. He couldn't stay idle anymore. Very quickly, someone came to take over his shift. It was Uncle Cheng. This time, Uncle Cheng handled the star stones alone. Ning Shu was a little surprised. He asked, "You're handling it alone. What can I do?" "He's out on a mission." Uncle Cheng was helpless. 2 people handling it was easier than 1. Ning Shu was a little doubtful. He asked, "Can you do it alone?" "Men never say they can't do it," Uncle Cheng said directly. Ning Shu, these men were really, so you guys were just messing around when you were handling it together? Ning Shu, then why did you guys handle it together before? Ning Shu was a little speechless. Men and women together. It's not tiring to work together, Uncle Cheng said. Ning Shu was stunned. Men and women together. Who was the man and who was the woman? Weren't they both men? Ning Shu felt like he was going to be played to death. Why were these people so naughty? You're a woman. Ning Shu looked at the burly Uncle Cheng. It was the first time Ning Shu had seen such a burly woman. Uncle Cheng, I'm just kidding. It's easy for 2 people to handle it. You can find a partner to do it together. So troublesome. Ning Shu felt that it was better to handle it alone and leave. Otherwise, he would have to contact someone else. How troublesome was that? Ning Shu, in other words, you can handle star stones on your own. Uncle Cheng, of course. Ning Shu, you're crazy. Ning Shu was tired and wanted to return to the system space. Uncle Cheng stopped Ning Shu and threw a box to Ning Shu. he said, opening gift. Ning Shu took the box. No one could stop her from holding a birthday party. It was a must. Absolutely. Ning Shu said, thank you. I'll treat you to a meal when I'm free. Uncle Cheng didn't come to the opening ceremony. It was a good idea to exchange a meal for a gift. Awesome. Hee, this gift is very surprising. Uncle Cheng wriggled his eyebrows at Ning Shu. Ning Shu calmed down a lot after receiving the gift. He asked, can you tell me what this gift is? Uncle Cheng chuckled. You'll know when you get back. It'll definitely be a surprise. Ning Shu suddenly felt that something was wrong. He really wanted to return the gift. Ning Shu's body moved faster than his brain. He directly threw the box back. I thought about it. We're not that close, so it's not good to accept your expensive gift. You don't have to accept it. If you're free, you can eat more. Just take care of my business. Uncle Cheng threw the gift back to Ning Shu. This is a gift specially prepared for you. I spent a lot of effort to make it. If you don't accept it, you're looking down on me. You accepted their gifts. Why didn't you accept mine? Are you looking down on me? The eldest uncle's face immediately darkened, and his aura became very strong. The wind around the eldest uncle's body made his clothes fluttering. Ning Shu was speechless. I'm looking down on you. This was the first time he received a gift in such a bad mood. He didn't know what was in this small box. If something scary jumped out, Ning Shu felt that his heart might not be able to take it. Is that right? Since it's a gift for you, just accept it. Don't pretend to reject it. Don't be polite. Uncle Cheng retracted his aura and returned to how he was before. Crazy. Ning Shu was sincerely trying to shirk the responsibility. She wasn't putting on an act. Unable to reject it, Ning Shu could only accept the gift. He returned to the system space and rubbed his hands. He wanted to open the box a few times, but he didn't have the courage. Ning Shu had a nagging feeling that something terrifying would jump out from inside. Uncle Cheng didn't want to give him a gift. He wanted to give him a scare. Ning Shu hesitated for a while. When he finally opened the box, his eyes were almost blinded by a strong light. It appeared with its own light. Ning Shu suspected that he was celebrating April Fool's Day. Chapter 34:17. Ning Shu covered his eyes. Through his fingers, he saw a flash of light in a box. Then, a naked man appeared. On the phone. There wasn't a single piece of cloth on his body. He stood in front of Ning Shu so calmly. This man had perfect facial features. He was thin, had wide shoulders, a narrow butt, and slender legs. Every part of him felt like it had been carefully sculpted. He was a perfect person. Ning Shu felt his eyes hurt. They were pierced by the strong light before, and now they were pierced again. This man's eyes were very pure. He was like a baby facing the world blankly. Ning Shu was speechless. What kind of sin did Uncle commit? What kind of gift was this? It wasn't surprise, it was fear. What did she want such a person for? So annoying. Especially this kind of person who didn't know anything. He was like a baby. It was really annoying. Master. When the man saw Ning Shu, he knelt down and said to Ning Shu. There wasn't a single piece of cloth on his body. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. What the hell? He expressionlessly opened the chat system. Ning Shu asked Uncle, what gift is this? Uncle, are you surprised? This is a puppet I made. Ning Shu didn't even want to say anything. Was he surprised? Ning Shu felt that the hatred between him and Uncle had deepened. Uncle, I'm so surprised that I can't speak. Actually, this puppet is only one step away from becoming a real living being. Moreover, it doesn't know the 7 emotions and 6 desires. If you teach it well, it can grow into what you want it to be. Do you know how to cultivate it? Ning Shu now believed that uncle was a pervert, just like what the greedy wolf star said. Ning Shu didn't have the energy to cultivate a puppet. It was a waste of time and energy. If he had the time, he might as well go to the void world to find treasures. Moreover, if he had the time, he might as well cultivate a real person. What was the point of cultivating a puppet? Oh my God! Ning Shu felt his head hurt. Ning Shu had successfully dispelled the idea of having a birthday party. If he had another birthday party, he might get another puppet. She had to stay away from Uncle Chang in the future. Ning Shu said, "I don't want this doll. Take it back." Eldest uncle, you're not satisfied? Is it because her face is not good enough, or her figure is not good enough, or is her size not big enough? Ning Shu facepalmed. She really wanted to kill her uncle. In the future, her uncle would be her enemy. From now on, she wouldn't accept any of her uncle's strange gifts. Especially things that were packed in boxes. Ning Shu, they're all good. Uncle Zhang, then why don't you want it? I don't have time. I don't want to play with mannequins. Ning Shu said directly. She was busy. Most importantly, she did not want to teach a mannequin how to face the world. Ning Shu suddenly thought of the little girl from Nine Palace Mountain. He wondered how she was doing now. Ning Shu felt that he might have an ill-fated relationship with creatures like children. The mannequin had the body of an adult, but its mind was different. Little girl, you're ignorant. Mannequins are very fun to play with. They're highly intelligent, and the chip in their brains can carry a lot of knowledge. Uncle Chang felt that his meticulous creation was being looked down upon. It wasn't just a feeling. It was truly being looked down upon. Thus, Uncle Chang became unhappy. In order to create a suitable mannequin for you, I investigated many female mission enforcers' requirements for men. The size of their faces and figures were all done through social research. This is the most perfect mannequin. Ning Shu really wanted to cry. She glanced at the half-kneeling mannequin. If she didn't tell him to get up, he wouldn't know either. There was no expression on his face. An emotionless mannequin. Ning Shu felt her eyes hurt. He said to Uncle Chang, "Can I change my gift? I don't think this gift suits me very well." "No, you can't. You've already opened it. The chip has already determined that you're the owner. This mannequin is unique to you. No one else can use it. If it couldn't be used, how could it be used?" Ning Shu said, "I still don't want it. Then this mannequin can only be destroyed. Sigh, it's been hard on me to create a mannequin for you. I feel like my creation isn't recognized." Ning Shu, this thing is yours. You can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to tell me. You can deal with your things. Uncle Chang unilaterally accepted the topic. Ning Shu wanted to say something, but Uncle Chang had already ignored him. Ning Shu's head hurt. He told the mannequin to get up. The mannequin stood up directly. Its crotch was swaying. It was very irritating to the eyes. Ning Shu felt that Uncle Chang had a bad taste. Ning Shu got a set of clothes and said to the mannequin, "Do you know how to wear these clothes?" The mannequin said, "Yes." His voice was very magnetic and very masculine. According to Uncle Chang, he had gathered all the charm of a man into this mannequin. But it didn't have any personality at all. The mannequin smoothly put on the clothes. In front of Ning Shu, he slowly put on the clothes. He was really full of charm. After he finished putting on the clothes, he looked at Ning Shu. The two of them looked at each other. The mannequin said first, "According to the analysis of the information I received, you don't like me and reject me?" Ning Shu said, "That's right." Ning Shu felt that he was about to have a heart attack. He thought that with Uncle Chang's status, his gift would be very precious. In the end, it was such a gift. Facing his master's rejection, the mannequin didn't have any emotions. He wasn't afraid or sad. He asked, "Master, are you going to destroy me?" His voice was very calm. If he wanted to deal with this mannequin, it was like a computer. It was a machine. It just appeared in the form of a human. It wasn't even considered a life. The mannequin stood there quietly. He wasn't worried about his future at all. He was numb. Would a machine feel anything? No. Forget it. He would just treat this mannequin as a machine and put it in a corner. Ning Shu said, "You can stay here now." Yes. The mannequin stood in the corner. He didn't move at all, just like a wooden stake. Ning Shu's head hurt. However, this mannequin was really good looking. It was perfect, except that it didn't have any humanity. This robot's looks were really good. Forget it. He would just put it in a corner. It would be nice to look at. Ning Shu patted the sofa next to him and said, "Come and sit. I have something to ask you." The mannequin sat down. The sofa sank. It seemed that this mannequin wasn't light. Ning Shu asked, "What's your name?" The mannequin said, "I don't have a name." "Master, please give me a name." Ning Shu said, "I haven't thought of a name yet. Let's talk about it later." Giving a name wasn't a simple matter. If he really gave a name, this mannequin would be his. He couldn't just abandon it. This was a responsibility. Ning Shu looked at this mannequin. To be honest, he couldn't treat this mannequin as a machine. Translator, Lonely Tree Editor, Millman 97. Chapter 34:18. How could a machine look like a human? Even if it was a robot, it still had very strong lines. Please take a look at the most complete. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. But this puppet looked like a real person on the surface, with delicate facial features and soft white skin. Uncle Chang's technology was so good that he almost wanted to create living creatures. Ning Shu felt that Uncle Chang's ultimate goal was probably to create living creatures. But living creatures were not things that could be created just by saying so. No matter how advanced the technology was, the uniqueness of living creatures could not be controlled. To be precise, they were living creatures. Puppets were not living creatures. This was the essential difference. Without being given a name immediately, the puppet did not show any emotion. It just said, "Master, is there anything you are not satisfied with?" The puppet's intelligence was the program, not the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Ning Shu said, "It's my own psychological barrier." The puppet said, "Do you need psychological counseling?" Ning Shu said, "No, I'm fine now. I can save myself." The puppet did not speak anymore. Then there was a suffocating silence. Ning Shu stood up and went directly to the world of Samsara to check on the recovery of the skeletons. Many of the skeletons were injured during the war. The skeletons were recovering well. Ning Shu went to the second level of the 9-Palace Mountain and walked into the cave. He heard a hoarse voice and a child's babbling. Although it was not very clear, Ning Shu could understand what the child was saying. Damn, why did it feel like the child had learned to talk in the short time that he had not been here? Ning Shu walked into the cave and saw a little girl walking with her hands on the wall. She was white and tender and saliva was dripping out of her mouth. When she saw a stranger coming, she quickened her pace and walked in with her hands on the wall. Ning Shu was speechless. He felt that he had missed a whole century. How could this child walk? And she could talk. Did time pass so quickly? Did time flow faster in this world? The earthworm had learned to talk. When the earthworm saw Ning Shu, it rolled its eyes and said in a hoarse voice, "What are you doing here?" Ning Shu felt that the earthworm was very resentful. "I'm here to see the child. What's there to look at? I left it here and didn't care about anything else. What are you looking at now?" Ning Shu reached out and pinched the child's smiling face. It was tender and smooth, but a little dirty. He didn't know how earthworms bathed their children. Did they use their tails to wrap them up and throw them directly into the water to wash them? In that case, the child would have to drink a lot of bathwater. This child seemed to have grown up like a wild animal. Ning Shu had nothing to say. After all, she wasn't the one who raised this child. She didn't fulfill any responsibility and had no right to speak. She shut up. The little girl was very close to earthworms and was not afraid of the snake-like earthworms at all. On the contrary, they were very wary of Ning Shu and hid far away. It was normal that they weren't close. The earthworm spoke to the little girl. Perhaps he was not used to speaking, his voice was so hoarse that if one did not listen carefully, one would not be able to hear what he was saying. "In the future, when you see this ugly woman, stay away from her. She's a human trafficker, a weird auntie. She's going to sell you to the mountains." Ning Shu. "That's too much. How could it be like this?" Ning Shu said, "I'm here to see what the child needs. She's growing now and needs clothes." The earthworm, "By the time you get your clothes, the child will have to run naked." Ning Shu was a little impatient to listen to the earthworm's mockery and said directly, "Well, it's my fault. If there's nothing else you need, I'm leaving." The earthworm. "Braid the child's hair. If you don't cut her hair short, I can't braid her hair." Ning Shu thought about it and gave the child a serious bath. She also washed her hair. "The child has lice." "That's impossible. I wash her every day." Ning Shu felt that living in a cave was not a problem. It was particularly easy to get wet, and it was not good for the child's life. Living in a thatched hut was better than living in a cave. Ning Shu said, "Let's build a house. It's not good to always live in a cave." The earthworm had no objection. "Okay." He bathed the child, evaporated the water in her hair, and tied 2 braids for the child. "I'm not very good at building houses. Go out and find some carpenters to do it." Ning Shu went directly to the town and found a team to build the house. These craftsmen were all dumbfounded. They had suddenly come to the wilderness. They were afraid that they had met an immortal. They must be immortal cultivators. Ning Shu asked these craftsmen to build the house. She would find the materials needed. You can get anything you want with bricks and tiles. Silver was not worth much. She could get it. The earthworm did not appear from beginning to end. After all, ordinary people would be afraid of his appearance. Ning Shu held the little girl and ordered the craftsman. Ning Shu thought of something. The little girl was already 1 year old, but she did not have a name. He had to give her a name. Ning Shu asked the earthworm, "What do you usually call the little girl?" The earthworm, "Call her Mississippi, Ning Shu. That's a good name." The earthworm rolled his eyes. "How can you give her such a casual name? You should be careful. Give her a beautiful and elegant name. A girl's name has to be nice. It has to be like a flower." Ning Shu, "Like a flower? Like a jade?" The earthworm, "Why do you call her dead fish? She's the child of your enemy." Ning Shu sighed. "You were the one who said it had to be like a flower." The house was built very quickly. Ning Shu stayed in this world until the house was built. He also bought a lot of things for the house. During this time, the little girl was not so wary of Ning Shu. She was much closer to him. When she saw that Ning Shu was about to leave, she grabbed Ning Shu's finger. Ning Shu said, "Miss, be good." "Sister, no, Auntie is leaving." Ning Shu's heart collapsed when he thought about how he had given birth to this child. He was actually not the child's mother. If the child thought that he was her mother and didn't care enough for her, she would definitely resent him. If he told the truth, it would be too cruel to the child. The child's background was actually very bitter. Therefore, Ning Shu told the earthworm that if he asked about the child's parents in the future, he would say that he picked the child up and didn't know who her parents were. The earthworm. You're such a jerk. Ning Shu, then do you think it's good for the child to know the truth? The earthworm knew the child's background. He couldn't let the earthworm take care of the child without telling it anything. The earthworm, she crawled out of your stomach. You have to say that she's an orphan. Ning Shu and the earthworm discussed a plan to deal with the child's questions in the future. Well, say that I picked her up. I played in the forest every day and then picked her up in a wooden basin in a small stream, the earthworm said. Translator, Lon_editor, Ephidacia. Chapter 34:19. Ning Shu made up a perfect life story with the earthworm so that he could answer the child's questions calmly in the future. The earthworm was full of contempt for Ning Shu. Oh, woman. Oh, go ahead, it doesn't matter. Did he just have to tell the child who her parents were? Besides, he couldn't see them anymore. Both of them were probably reincarnated now. It was impossible for the little tadpole to find its mother. After buying a lot of things for the family, Ning Shu said, you can't always give the child milk powder in the future. She should eat complementary food. Ning Shu looked at the earthworm. Can you make food? The kitchen was ready-made. The earthworm rolled its eyes. I don't need to eat human food. If I can be human food, it'll be against the natural order. She has complementary food. It was sent by the skeleton. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Where did Zhu Jun find complementary food? Ning Shu looked at the complementary food jar. These were all very modern things. Did Zhu Jun carry her to the world of the living? Alright, Zhu Jun's legs were grown on his body. Zhu Jun could go wherever he wanted. He just didn't know how to get there. Did Zhu Jun have the ability to pass through the bit wall? Ning Shu was going to make something for the child to eat before leaving. He boiled the porridge until it was very thick and sprinkled some vegetables in it. A very simple porridge was made. Ning Shu asked the earthworm, didn't you change the diet? What do you eat now? The earthworm said, spirit stones and things with spiritual chi. His mouth was still so picky. Will the spirit stones produce toxins? The earthworm's toxins were a big killer. Without toxins, the earthworm's ability to protect itself would be reduced a lot. Ning Shu laughed and condensed a drop of black stuff on his fingertip. It was a bit smelly, dirty, and smelly. The earthworm bounced up and looked at the black sticky drop. How can you condense this thing? Ning Shu said, because I'm gifted. Your poison is useless to me in the future. The earthworm was very unhappy. I've condensed other poisons now. They have the same effect, and they're even more poisonous than before. What kind of poison can overpower the 7 emotions and 6 desires? Ning Shu didn't believe it at all. There was no way to get rid of this soul poison once it came into contact with it. There was nothing more poisonous than this. The earthworm was speechless and could only say, you two-legged monsters are the most poisonous in the world. Seeing the earthworm and baby girl, Ning Shu finally knew how to deal with the dolls in the system space. Letting the mannequin take care of the child was a good thing. She didn't really want to see a doll right now. Ning Shu said to the earthworm, I want to find someone to take care of you. He just didn't know if the dolls were good for life skills. Didn't Uncle Zhang say that the doll was perfect? It had many advantages, except that it wasn't a real person. It was even more perfect than the Sword Monarch. The Sword Monarch was equivalent to a weapon. It would carry out the orders you gave it. Other than that, it would not have any intelligence. This doll, on the other hand, could have an intelligence and make appropriate responses. The earthworm was unwilling. Who are you looking for? I've taken care of the child until now. Why didn't you find someone to help when the child only knew how to cry and poop? He had already endured through the most difficult times. What was the point of putting on an act now? Ning Shu said. Are you afraid that someone will come and distract the child from you? You're not a human. The child still needs to interact with people. The earthworm said, okay, you can get someone to take care of her. I don't plan to take care of her. The earthworm was now like a parent whose child's education had been interfered with. She was very unhappy. Ning Shu said, okay, I won't get anyone to take care of her. She was getting rid of the donkey after it had outlived its usefulness. Since the earthworm was unwilling, so be it. Moreover, the child had always lived with the earthworm and was already used to it. If she really handed the child over to someone else, the child might not be used to it. The earthworm rolled her eyes and said directly, goodbye. I won't see you off. The earthworm was very unhappy with Ning Shu. He didn't put in any effort to take care of the child, but now he was ordering the child around. How shameless. Ning Shu fed the girl a bowl of porridge and left. When she returned to the system space, she found that the system space looked brand new. There were new flowers on the coffee table, and the place had been cleaned. It was shiny. There were also pastries on the table. Ning Shu suspected that she had come to the wrong place. Although her system space wasn't like a pigsty, it wasn't so clean. The sofa pillows were casually thrown on the ground. Now, the pillows were placed neatly on the sofa. Even the shape of the pillows was the same. It was like obsessive-compulsive disorder. Everything was neat and tidy. The doll stood in the corner, but because of its appearance and figure, it had a very strong presence. Ning Shu asked, did you make this? In this system space, other than the system, there was only this doll. The system was next door and couldn't come in at all, so this could only be made by the doll. Ning Shu looked at the doll and asked, why did you do this? The doll's voice was full of charm. Because I analyzed the current situation. You're not very satisfied with me, so I had to do something to gain your favor and please you. Ning Shu was speechless. Where did you buy the cake? Ning Shu asked. In the Precept City. Ning Shu was a little surprised. How did you get there? This doll could go to the Precept City and had money to buy things. The doll said, I have a teleportation mechanism in my body. I can go anywhere. I used your identity card to buy the cake. Ning Shu was speechless. This doll was really powerful. Uncle Zhang really put in a lot of effort. Ning Shu asked, besides being able to teleport to other places, do you have any other abilities? Master, what abilities are you referring to? Ning Shu said, fighting. When it comes to fighting, I'm not very good at it because the huge destructive power will destroy my body, the doll said honestly. So that was the case. After all, it was a doll. Although he didn't know what material was used to make it look like a real doll, it was relatively easy to destroy. Do you want to eat the cake? The doll opened the box and cut out a piece for Ning Shu. His hands were slender and white, and they complemented the cream on the cake, shining brightly. People who liked faces, voices, and hands could find something to be obsessed with from this doll. Uncle Zhang must have been bored to think of making a doll like this. If one wanted to become a god of creation and create living beings, there would be an endless stream of dolls made, and there would also be many failures. Ning Shu really didn't know how to thank Uncle Zhang. The doll held the cake and bent over to look at Ning Shu. Ning Shu took the cake from him and took a bite. The cake was very sweet. Ning Shu put it down and said, have you ever thought of changing places? To the world of reincarnation. No, I only have Master in my heart. When you opened the box, my program was already activated. Chapter 34:20. I can't serve anyone else, so when Master doesn't need me anymore, my program will automatically destroy itself, the doll said calmly. It didn't show any emotion. It didn't show any fear when it said it was going to be destroyed. Perhaps it didn't even know what fear was. It didn't have any emotions. All its actions were controlled by the program. Master, you still don't like me. Why is that? Please tell me. I'll try my best to improve, the doll said. The program in its head was probably running quickly, analyzing the situation in front of it. From its point of view, the micro-expressions on Ning Shu's face were magnified infinitely. It had to capture the slightest expression, whether it was disgust, like, or impatience. Through these micro-expressions, the doll had to accurately analyze its master's current emotions. Micro-expressions couldn't be controlled by humans. Subconscious actions and emotions were all shown. Ning Shu just said, "It's nothing. You can stay here for now." Master, have you accepted me? Ning Shu rubbed its head. Don't call me master. Did it know it was embarrassing? The doll asked, then how should I address you, master? Just call me by my name. Okay, Ning Shu, the doll said smoothly. It had to be said that the doll's voice was too pleasant to listen to. Hearing her name from its mouth made her feel numb and electrified. If you need anything, please let me know. I'll be at your service. The doll looked at Ning Shu. Its eyes were deep and moving, as if there were billions of stars in them. Being looked at like this, it was like being the center of the world, the focus of the world. Ning Shu didn't know why her uncle had made such a charming doll. According to the Greedy Wolf star, Greedy Wolf had a twisted relationship with his doll. Was it true? He had made his doll perfect and full of charm. And he only had eyes for her. After interacting with her day and night, he might really fall in love. Ning Shu looked at the doll and quickly shook her head. She wasn't a pervert like her uncle. What did she have to do with dolls? There was a real person. Even if she wanted to find one, she had to find one with emotions. Not a puppet, an emotionless puppet. Ning Shu said to the doll, I have a new mission for you. Since you have the power to travel, you can wander around the 4 cities of earth, wood, water, and prophecy. If anything happens, tell me. The doll asked, Is this the mission you gave me, Ning Shu? Yes, this is your mission. Ning Shu thought for a while and asked, Do you eat anything? Any living creature or thing that could move required energy. Only with energy could they move. The mannequin did not seem to need to eat, so what energy did it need? The puppet said, There's a formation in my body that requires regular insertion of spirit stones. Spirit stones, they weren't that precious. However, the higher the level of the energy, the longer it can last. For example, energy bodies. Ning Shu was speechless. An energy body. This puppet was probably going to ascend to the heavens. The doll that absorbed the energy would probably become the most expensive doll. Normally, I can absorb spirit energy myself. The formation can gather spirit energy. Don't worry, Master, the puppet said. It could absorb energy by itself. How worrisome. Uncle's craftsmanship was great. Ning Shu asked, Does Uncle make many dolls like you? Marionette, yes, many mission enforcers would actually buy marionettes from Uncle so that they could help with some trivial matters. So, Master, you can treat me as a cleaning robot or something else. There's no need to hold a grudge against me. If it was just an ordinary robot without such a realistic human skin, it would be fine. However, it was really difficult to treat it as a cleaning robot. Wasn't it good to look like a cleaning robot? Sometimes, appearances could really confuse people. Ning Shu said to the puppet, Then go to those cities now. If there's anything, tell me. Understand? Understood. The puppet nodded. The puppet left in an instant. Ning Shu felt that the puppet's spatial laws were even better than hers. What was this? She wanted to teleport as many as possible. Ning Shu's puppet was in the system space. Ning Shu instantly collapsed to the ground. He opened the exchange store and exchanged for fasting pills and the like. He was ready to do the mission. He had already wasted so much time. It was time to do the mission. However, Ning Shu thought of something. She had heard from her uncle that the puppets were omniscient and had created a perfect program. Ning Shu chuckled and summoned the puppet back. He asked, "Do you know where Jingqing is now?" The puppet's program was probably searching. After a while, it said to Ning Shu, "I found him, but I can't open him." "What do you mean you can't open him?" The puppet said, "This question is beyond my authority. It's the kind that can't be answered." Ning Shu asked, "Then how can I open this authority?" "I don't know. This question is clearly beyond my authority. I shouldn't know this question, and neither should Master," the puppet said. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. It was fine if the puppet didn't know, but why did it have to be encrypted? He was speechless. Ning Shu asked, "How can I know?" After a while, the puppet said, "You can destroy my program and cause it to go haywire. Perhaps you'll know." Ning Shu nodded. "What will happen to you if the program goes haywire?" "I'll be destroyed. My actions are all controlled by the program." Ning Shu said, "Then forget it. I won't ask." They still needed the puppet to patrol the city. There was no need to lose a puppet for Jingqing. Besides, she had found Jingqing to hit him when he was down and show off. This wasn't important. There was no need to destroy the program. "Then you can go back to work." The puppet said, "You don't need to destroy my program." Ning Shu said, "No need, no need." Although she really wanted to know how Jingqing was doing in his bath in the law of nothingness. There was no need to sacrifice a helper just to see Jingqing. Jingqing's life or death had nothing to do with her. If she could see him, it would be nice to hit him when he was down. If she couldn't, it didn't matter. The puppet returned to the city and said to Ning Shu, "Master, do you really not want to give me a name?" Ning Shu asked, "What name do you want to be called?" The puppet said, "I'll be called whatever name Master gives me. I exist because of Master. There's only Master in my program." Ning Shu clutched his chest. Those who knew that the puppet was telling the truth, but those who didn't know would think that he was sweet-talking. Chapter 34-22. Even if Chu Tianfeng insisted on testing her NA, it was impossible for him to do so. If he wanted to test it, he would. Old Master Chu said, "Yongning is my son. I don't even know if he's my son." "No need. Grandpa, how can you be so careless and let someone enter the Chu family?" Ning Shu said, "Don't worry, you'll inherit the Chu family in the future. I won't take a single cent from the Chu family. You're eating and using the Chu family's money now. What right do you have to say such things?" Old Master Chu's face turned ugly. He slammed the table. "What are you doing? Can't you eat properly?" Ning Shu picked up some food and placed it on the plate in front of Old Master Chu. "Dad, eat. Don't be angry. Tianfeng is the younger generation. We're the elders. We have to be magnanimous." Ning Shu wasn't angry at all. He didn't want to argue with the younger generation. Chu Tianfeng was angry. What right did a child of a mistress have to be in the Chu family? Ning Shu was a little puzzled. Why was this identity the child of a mistress? After that, Ning Shu asked Old Master Chu, "Is my mother really your mistress?" Old Master Chu said angrily, "Am I the kind of man who has a mistress?" Ning Shu nodded. "Yes. Where else would I come from? Out of thin air. You're not my biological son. You're my friend's son. Your parents died in an accident along with Tianfeng's parents. You were still young at that time, so I adopted you as my youngest son. Ning Shu almost gave Old Master Chu a thumbs up. If he knew what was going on, Ning Shu would have believed Old Master Chu's nonsense. It didn't matter what identity he had, as long as he had a proper identity. Who knew what the plot of this world was like? Anyway, he just had to follow Chu Tianfeng. He had all the time in this world. Old Master Chu arranged a position for Ning Shu in the company. He asked Ning Shu to go to work. Chu Tianfeng was a domineering CEO. Only by going to work could he get close to Chu Tianfeng. On the first day of work, Chu Tianfeng showed his power to Ning Shu by scolding her in front of all the employees. Ning Shu retorted expressionlessly, putting Chu Tianfeng on the spot. This made Chu Tianfeng dislike Ning Shu even more. Ning Shu didn't mind. He just kept an eye on Chu Tianfeng's movements. He used his mental power to observe Chu Tianfeng. Since he didn't know the plot, he could only look for a breakthrough from Chu Tianfeng. Hearing that Chu Tianfeng was going to attend an auction at a high-class clubhouse, Ning Shu also got an invitation and went with him. This auction house was quite mysterious. Everyone who participated in the auction had to wear masks. It was said that this auction house had everything. Everything would be auctioned. Ning Shu found a place to sit down and began the auction. The auction items included jewelry, calligraphy, paintings, antiques, and even people. When a cage was pushed over, there was a woman wearing very little inside. This woman was very cute and was extremely shy in front of everyone. She curled herself into a ball and used the few remaining clothes on her body to cover her naked body. Where was the auctioneer? No wonder everyone who came to attend had to wear a mask and didn't show their province. They were actually buying and selling people. And such a beautiful woman. Ning Shu's attention was all on the woman in the cage. This woman also had luck. She was probably the female lead. The female lead was actually locked in a cage for people to buy and sell. This was the first time he had seen it. A girl as pure as a little white rabbit, that shivering appearance could really arouse a man's bloodlust and make him want to abuse her. Many men present were ready to make a move. A man with a big belly had already started to bid. One person made a bid, and a second person made a bid. Wen Gu looked at these men who were bidding. Their eyes were hot and had a nauseating aura, as if they wanted to swallow her up. If it wasn't for her brother's medical expenses, she would have been brought to this place. At the last moment, Wen Gu regretted it. These men were too disgusting. Was there no good person here? Ning Shu didn't bid. Instead, he observed Chu Tianfeng. According to the attraction between these two people, Chu Tianfeng would definitely buy her. The evolution of this world really made Ning Shu confused. Chu Tianfeng's finger tapped on the table rhythmically, indicating that he was very interested in the woman in the cage. The price was still rising. Hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars, were all coming. Chu Tianfeng still didn't bid. Ning Shu raised his sign and made a bid. It was probably because the things they snatched were better. The higher the price, the more people would bid. The woman in the cage shivered. The more she aroused a man's desire to conquer. The people here were either rich or respectable. Money was just a string of numbers. They could do whatever they wanted. Wen Gu shivered under the unscrupulous gazes. She tried her best to cover her exposed skin with the cloth on her body. Now she regretted it very much. But what was done could not be undone. Wen Gu hoped that the man who bought her would be a good person. Chu Tianfeng didn't bid, but this woman's price was already very high. She was considered the best. Her value lay in her unique youthful and pure aura. This was what men liked the most. Every man wanted to be a woman's first man, but a woman wanted to be a man's last woman. In short, he wanted to have a taste. As for how to deal with this woman after that, it was a small problem. Anyway, Ning Shu's heart had already sorted out the situation. It was probably because the female lead had to sell her body for some reason and met a generous buyer. Then they started to have sex. And they were torturing her body and her heart. I bought you. I can do whatever I want to you. The female lead endured the humiliation. My dignity has already been trampled to this extent. Ning Shu wasn't interested in this farce. In any case, the last two people were HP. As for torturing her body and her heart, the two of them enjoyed it. One took the initiative, the buyer. The other took the humiliation, the seller. Ning Shu was thinking, if she bought this woman, would she also have a relationship with her that would develop over time? Because he took her body, the female lead's heart belonged to Chu Tianfeng. Ning Shu propped up his chin. He was a little bored. The price soared to 100 million. 100 million. Ning Shu felt that the inflation in this world was a little serious. Money was a piece of waste paper. It was easily 100 million, tens of billions, hundreds of billions. So expensive. The female lead was really expensive. So much money. Ordinary people couldn't earn it in 100 lifetimes. Compared to those girls on the street, the female lead was forced to do this because she had no other choice. She was pure and flawless. She was forced. She had difficulties. She was pitiful. Many reasons covered her desire to get rich overnight. Only by getting rich could she solve the problem. It's the fastest novel website. Chapter 34-23. Sure enough, the only way to solve problems was to get rich. Even the pure female lead had to lower her head for money. She had to suffer humiliation while counting money, but she also had to put up with it because of her own difficulties. She had to love silently while feeling inferior, enduring the contempt and humiliation of the person she loved. Ning Shu felt tired just thinking about such a complicated psychological process. Ordinary people worked hard, exhausting themselves physically and mentally, but the female lead endured all this and received a large sum of money. If she could get so much without suffering, wouldn't people criticize her? The benefits behind this love were very obvious. Ning Shu felt stuffy with the mask on, but Chu Tianfeng could hold on. Anyway, she wouldn't bid anymore. Who knew what would happen if she bought it? It was none of her business how they liked to be in love. Her mission was to find the opportunity for evolution, remove the obstacles, and help the plane evolve. Speaking of which, this mission was difficult because she couldn't grasp the opportunity for the plane's evolution. But it was also simple because there was no client, so she didn't have to fulfill the client's wish. Ning Shu watched these men bid in boredom. Probably because of the protagonist aura, this female lead attracted many men to compete. Chu Tianfeng would probably win the female lead in one fell swoop and bring her back to be lovey-dovey. Chu Tianfeng really liked this. He didn't have a proper girlfriend, but actually came here to auction a girl. What was the difference between this and prostitution? Thinking of this, Chu Tianfeng's high-end and domineering CEO style disappeared with the wind. He became so wretched. No amount of beautification could hide the fact that Chu Tianfeng was a prostitute. Ning Shu thought about it and also raised his paddle, preparing to raise the price. This way, when Chu Tianfeng bid, it would definitely shock everyone. Ning Shu was helping Chu Tianfeng get the limelight. He. Chu Tianfeng finally raised his paddle and said, 100 billion. Ning Shu, sigh, the money in this world was so cheap. Why was it so worthless? Hundreds of billions, he didn't understand the world of the rich. Although the mask covered his face, it exposed his chin. Just from the chiseled chin alone, one could tell that this person was very handsome. In particular, the aura of his entire body could not be faked. Wen Gu looked at this man and her face started to turn red. With such a high price, probably no one else would bid anymore. Chu Tianfeng's price had successfully silenced everyone present. After all, it was not worth it to spend so much money on a woman. There were plenty of women out there. Why would he spend so much money on a wooden club? Ning Shu stretched lazily. Next, it should be time to hide a mistress in a golden house. It seemed that no matter what era, human trafficking was the norm. Even though the current society was very equal, the darkness behind equality still existed. The woman was carried away and would be sent to Chu Tianfeng when the time came. Sigh, this nephew of his is also lonely and needs a woman. Ning Shu left the club and waited at the door for Chu Tianfeng to come out. When Chu Tianfeng came out, a woman followed closely behind him. It was the girl who had just been auctioned off. The girl was very shy. She walked with her head down and bumped into Chu Tianfeng's back. She hurriedly apologized, I'm sorry. Ning Shu rolled down the window and said to Chu Tianfeng with a smile, the playboy is willing to spend a lot of money for a beauty. How bold and daring. Seeing Ning Shu, Chu Tianfeng's face fell. Now that he had calmed down, Chu Tianfeng also felt that his brain was too hot. He had an inexplicable impulse when he saw this girl. Seeing her in a cage, wearing very little, and being looked at like this, he was quite unhappy. He bought her at a high price. Now that the mistress's son had found out, if he complained to his grandfather, he would be scolded by his grandfather. Ning Shu looked at the female lead who was wearing clothes, she's pretty. She probably has some difficulties to bear with such humiliation. Let me guess. Grandfather, grandmother, father, mother, brother and sister are sick and need a large sum of money to pay for medical expenses. Or is the family in debt? It was undeniable that this was the fastest way to earn money. It was a shortcut. The other jobs were too slow to earn money. And in this kind of place, the people who came were either rich or respectable. Money was nothing to these people. Wen Gu felt a little embarrassed. That was indeed the case. She had no choice but to do this. Chu Tianfeng hated this man. A mistress's child openly entered the Chu family and considered himself a member of the Chu family. Shameless. Ning Shu smiled, looking more and more like a gigolo. Nephew, I advise you not to bring this girl home. If you do, father will have a heart attack. Especially since you spent so much money. A quarter of the company's income is gone just like that. Father will be so angry that he won't be able to eat. Find another place to hide your mistress. Ning Shu winked at the two of them and waved two fingers at the end of his eyebrows. Goodbye, my good nephew. Uncle will keep this matter a secret for you. Chu Tianfeng said coldly, I don't need your fake kindness. Okay. Ning Shu rolled up the window. Wen Gu saw the cold aura around the buyer and felt a little timid. Did I bring you trouble? Get in the car, Chu Tianfeng said coldly. Wen Gu immediately got in the car obediently, not knowing what to do. She thought about it and felt that some things had to be made clear. I'm only selling my virginity. Chu Tianfeng sneered and said coldly, are you worth that much? You're selling your virginity for so much money. How long you want to stay with me is up to me. I spent so much money for one night. Wen Ji's eyes were filled with tears. Her self-esteem was trampled into the mud. She endured the humiliation and said, you said it was only my virginity. You've already bought it for me. How long is up to me? When I get tired of you, the deal is over. Chu Tianfeng was angry because of Ning Shu, so his words were especially rude. Poor Wen Gu became a punching bag. She was so angry that her whole body was shaking. She thought that he was a good person, but she didn't expect him to be so bad. And he didn't follow the deal at all. Didn't she say that she was only selling her virginity? She didn't even know that the deal was over. She had to wait until the buyer got tired of her. But when would that happen? When the buyer took off his mask, he was so handsome that when Ji's heart was a little comforted. She only had this body left. If she could use this body to do something for her family, it would be good. Instead of being with a disgusting man, if she lost her virginity to such a man, it wouldn't be a loss. But it was only one night, and now it had developed to an irregular period. Wen-gu found it hard to accept. You can't do this. Wen-gu made a final struggle. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 34-24. When Ning Shu returned home, he saw Old Master Chu sitting on the sofa with a walking stick. He looked at Ning Shu and asked, "Why didn't Tianfeng come back with you?" Ning Shu looked at Old Master Chu. He probably knew what his grandson had done and was waiting for Chu Tianfeng to come back and denounce him. "Dad, it's late. Let's sleep. Tianfeng is already an adult." Moreover, Chu Tianfeng had just bought a beautiful girl. He definitely wanted to spend the night with her. According to Ning Shu's understanding of the domineering CEO, he was quite capable. Old Master Chu couldn't wait for his grandson to come back tonight. Chu Tianfeng and Wen-gu both said they didn't want each other, but their bodies were honest. One felt humiliated, but had to cater to a man. After all, love was born. One of them was extremely disdainful and kept saying that he was the one who bought it, but he was very fierce and wanted to taste it after tasting it. When Old Master Chu heard Ning Shu's words, his face became even uglier. Ning Shu said, "Yongning, do you know something? You're an elder. You're more mature than Tianfeng. You should take care of him and remind him not to make any mistakes. Although the Chu family is big, a 1,000-mile dike can be destroyed by an ant hole. We can't let Tianfeng do whatever he wants." When Old Master Chu said this, he was actually treating his only grandson as his successor. However, with the existence of Chu Yongning or Ning Shu, Chu Tianfeng was full of hostility towards Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. "I know, Dad." Old Master Chu stared at Ning Shu. "Then tell me, where is Tianfeng now?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I don't know. Tianfeng is already an adult. He has his own house outside. It's not a big deal if he doesn't come home occasionally." Ning Shu wanted to say that Old Master Chu might be able to have a grandson soon. However, Old Master Chu was old and couldn't take the shock. Regardless of whether it was shock or surprise, he tried to minimize his emotional fluctuations as much as possible. Grandpa Xing pointed at Ning Shu with his walking stick. "All you know is to be dumb and blind. Don't forget that you're also a part of this family. If someone does something wrong, you have to stop it immediately." Ning Shu felt a little guilty and said, "I know, Dad. Let's go to bed early. Tianfen should be back tomorrow morning. Let's talk about it tomorrow." The old man was old and couldn't stay up late. After hearing Ning Shu's words, he stood up with his crutches. He couldn't straighten his back, so Ning Shu helped him stand up. He was escorted to his room. When Ning Shu was about to leave the room, Grandpa Ning stopped him. "Yongning, I'm getting on in years. I'll be handing the family over to you and Tianfeng. I know Tianfeng doesn't like it, but you have to give him some advice." Ning Shu pondered for a moment and said, "Father, if I were here, would definitely take good care of the Chu clan." Anyway, he didn't know how long he would be in this world. It was fine if he used his identity as a member of the Chu clan as a cover. At least he could use his identity to take care of the Chu clan. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask, "Father, don't you have other sons? Even if they're from a mistress?" He didn't know why those bossy CEOs didn't go bankrupt. They didn't have to do anything. Maybe there was a professional manager helping to take care of the Chu clan. They didn't have to do anything and they could get paid. However, Ning Shu didn't know how long he could take care of the Chu clan. Grandpa Chu said, "Get lost." Sure enough, Chu Tianfeng came back the next day. He came back early. Ning Shu tidied himself up and looked at his handsome self in the mirror. He was so fucking handsome. Ning Shu went downstairs and saw Chu Tianfeng's glowing face. Before Grandpa Chu got up, he asked Chu Tianfeng, "Does it feel great to be a groom?" "Great? Fuck." The faint smile on his face really made people feel like they were fucking in a bad mood. He really didn't know where the son of a mistress got his sense of superiority from. Dirty blood flowed in his body. Grandpa Chu got up and came downstairs. When he saw Chu Tianfeng, he asked, "Why didn't you come home last night?" "Working overtime at the company," Chu Tianfeng said casually. "Working overtime? Didn't your chin get sore early in the morning? Why did you have to work overtime with a woman?" Grandpa Chu said angrily. Chu Tianfeng immediately looked at Ning Shu. Despicable person. Ning Shu rolled his eyes. What did he say? Ning Shu said to Grandpa Chu, "Father, Tianfeng bought a woman at the auction house for 100 billion yesterday. He was probably with that woman last night. He couldn't bear this accusation for nothing." Chu Tianfeng glared at Ning Shu. He didn't expect Ning Shu to complain in front of him. Although Grandpa Chu already knew about it, he still had a heart attack when he heard 100 billion. 100 billion. This grandson of his was really generous. Chu Tianfeng glared at Ning Shu and said in disgust, "Despicable person." Ning Shu chuckled. "You were the one who said you didn't want my hypocrisy. Chu Tianfeng, you did something wrong, but you still have the right to say it. You did it, but you don't let people talk about it. You really disappoint me." Grandpa Chu leaned on his walking stick and said with pain in his heart. Chu Tianfeng was already a man in his 20s. Being scolded by his grandfather and questioned his ability in front of the son of a mistress was very embarrassing. "Grandpa, it's not like our family is short of money. If we don't have enough money, we can't afford to eat or pay the utility bills. Earning money is to spend money. Money that isn't spent is not money at all. Don't talk about the virtues of simplicity. Grandpa, the things you use are all simple. Which one of the things in this house is simple? You still have the right to say it." Grandpa Chu was so angry that his heart hurt. "You spent so much money on a woman." Chu Tianfeng said, "It's not about whether it's worth it or not. If I think it's worth it, it's worth it. If I don't think it's worth it, it's not worth it. So, Grandpa, it's not a big deal. You don't have to criticize me like this." Grandpa Chu widened his eyes and couldn't say anything to refute. He couldn't refute. In Grandpa Chu's heart, it was nothing more than spending so much money on a woman. He felt that it was not worth it and that it was a loss. As a businessman, Grandpa Chu felt like there was a fishbone in his throat. Who knew if this woman was safe or not? Grandpa Chu didn't want his grandson to fail in the field of women. A woman that can be auctioned off like an item, what kind of woman can you be? Grandpa Chu was angered by his grandson's rebellion. Was he going to disobey him for a woman? Ning Shu chewed on his sandwich and looked at the confrontation between the grandfather and grandson. He didn't interrupt. In this situation, it was not his place to interrupt. It seemed that Grandpa Chu didn't have a good impression of Wengu. If these two wanted to have a good relationship, they had to go through Grandpa Chu first. Grandpa Chu was a worldly man and probably wouldn't agree. Chapter 34-25. A bad impression was only for a moment, but it was very difficult to reverse the image and change a person's inherent impression of another person. The road of love was really bumpy. Ning Shu shook his head, he just took 2 bites of the sandwich and put it down. After all, he was a soul body, he didn't need to eat. Unprocessed food was uncomfortable to eat. Ning Shu really couldn't see that this world was going to evolve. Does it look like an ordinary modern society? What direction was it going to develop in? Without spiritual energy, it was impossible to become a world of immortal cultivation. Ning Shu felt that it was better to give up on this world. Then, should it develop in other directions? The technology of this world was just so. It couldn't be that technology would advance by leaps and bounds and enter the ranks of super technology. Ning Shu felt that he seemed to have been sent to the wrong world. This world didn't look like it was going to evolve. It seemed that he could only find clues from the male and female leads. But Ning Shu could already imagine the next plot. It was just a transaction of love. What was so special about it? Because he suffered in the hands of Ning Shu in the morning, after going to work, Chu Tianfeng tried his best to find trouble with Ning Shu. One moment, there was a problem, and the next moment, there was a problem. Ning Shu was too lazy to pay attention to him and pretended not to hear it. After work, Ning Shu changed to another car and followed behind Chu Tianfeng. She wanted to see where Chu Tianfeng had hidden Wengu in his golden house. Sure enough, Chu Tianfeng put Wengu in a villa under his name. This villa was next to the sea. When he opened the window, he could see the ebb and flow of the tide. Ning Shu didn't get close to the villa. He just scanned it with his spiritual energy and saw the situation of the witch clearly. He was really direct. He did it in the daytime. As soon as Chu Tianfeng entered the room, he began to unbuckle his belt and then pressed Wengu under his body. Simple and rough. Wengu gritted her teeth and endured it. Tears were in her eyes. She was very resistant. She was never treated gently. Ning Shu propped up her head. She wondered if Chu Tianfeng liked to force himself on her. Since he had spent money, he should enjoy it. At the same time, he could make the girl feel more comfortable. Wasn't this a good thing? If he didn't like Wengu, he shouldn't have bought it. Was this inexplicable disgust really a lunatic? Chu Tianfeng was probably conflicted as well. Ning Shu felt that he was going to grow a needle in his eye. He withdrew his spiritual force and drove away. Every day, Chu Tianfeng would come over and play for a while before leaving. Coming here once a day, Ning Shu felt that Chu Tianfeng's ability was really good. Once a day, aren't you afraid that your body will be emptied? This was totally an H-plot. Ning Shu had lost interest in it after watching it too much. Looks like I won't be able to peek into this world's evolution for the time being. As for these people coming and going, he couldn't care less. Wengu didn't have any freedom at all. She could only move around in the villa. She couldn't even step out of the villa. There was a nanny taking care of Wengu. Wengu tried to leave several times but was punished by Chu Tianfeng. Wengu cried and explained that she wanted to go to the hospital to visit her brother. Her brother was sick and needed medical fees urgently. There were several times when Wengu wanted to ask for money in bed, but her strong self-esteem prevented her from doing so. It wasn't until the hospital called to urge her to pay that Wengu endured the humiliation and spoke. Chu Tianfeng didn't say anything and just threw her a check. Wengu felt even more embarrassed when he looked at her as if she was a beggar. She knew that it was for money, but she still couldn't stand it and hated herself. When Ning Shu was about to drive away, Wengu suddenly rushed to the side of the car. Her body brushed against the car and she fell to the ground. Ning Shu felt like there was a ghost. Suddenly, Wengu sprained her ankle and her body tilted to the side of her car. Should she get out of the car? Of course not. She was so handsome and rich. She was also someone that Chu Tianfeng disliked. If she got involved with Wengu, she didn't want to become an idiot. It wouldn't be good if she became a catalyst for their relationship. Wen Ji's sprain looked a little serious. She had already gotten up, but she still fell to the ground. She looked like she was in pain. It was time to test Ning Shu's conscience. Should he get out of the car or leave her alone? Oh no. Was she going to be an idiot? She couldn't snatch her nephew's woman. Moreover, Ning Shu touched her chest. Although it had shrunk, she was still a girl. Therefore, Ning Shu went against her conscience and ran away. Anyway, it wasn't a good thing to be involved with the female lead. Moreover, she wasn't the one who caused the accident. It was the female lead who bumped into her. What did it have to do with her? Wen-gu was speechless. Were people nowadays so immoral? She ran away after bumping into someone. However, Wen-gu didn't care about these things. Instead, she hurried to the hospital to pay. If she didn't pay, the hospital would stop her brother's medicine. Everyone said that her brother's kidney failure couldn't be cured, but her brother was her family. She was willing to do the mission for him. Wen-gu stayed outside for a long time. When she returned to the villa, she was punished by Chu Tianfeng again. Wen-gu was already injured. After being hit by a car, she felt very wronged when she saw Chu Tianfeng's cold face. Originally, she already had a good impression of Chu Tianfeng. Chu Tianfeng had bought her back from the humiliating auction house. Chu Tianfeng was handsome, and he was also rich. It coated his body in layers of light. Wen-gu felt wrong to be treated like this by the person she liked. Wen-gu was very conflicted. She wanted to leave. Every time she was treated by Chu Tianfeng, her heart would crack open. However, she couldn't bear to leave Chu Tianfeng. She stayed by Chu Tianfeng's side. Ning Shu slacked at work every day. She was bored. Facing Chu Tianfeng's nitpicking, Ning Shu didn't care at all. She could receive ambiguous looks from her female colleagues. There were also ladies who wanted to flirt with her. So many young ladies flirted with her. It was great. She was intoxicated in the land of tenderness. No, she was investigating the evolution of the plane. She didn't know if it was Ning Shu's illusion. She felt that she would always run into Wen-gu. Even in the company, she would run into Wen-gu in the elevator. Wen-gu didn't stay in the villa and wait for Chu Tianfeng. Instead, she came to the company. When Wen-gu saw Ning Shu, she moved to the side of the elevator and distanced herself from Ning Shu. However, the elevator shook. Wen Ji's body leaned towards Ning Shu and fell into Ning Shu's arms. Ning Shu was speechless. The bracelet on Wen Ji's wrist was placed in front of Ning Shu's chest. It hurt a little. Ning Shu felt a faint spirit aura. Before he could sense it carefully, the elevator shook as if it was peeing. Then, the door opened. Chu Tianfeng stood at the door, looking cold. Chapter 34-26. Chu Tianfeng saw the two of them hugging each other in the elevator. Ning Shu raised his hands. Would you believe me if I said it was an accident? You have to believe me. I only have you in my heart. Chu Tianfeng and Wen-gu were a bit confused when Ning Shu said that to Chu Tianfeng. Wen-gu was anxious. She wanted to explain, but when she heard what the man said, she was speechless. Chu Tianfeng's face was very dark. He turned around and left without a word. Wen-gu quickly chased after him to explain. Ning Shu shrugged. See, she had indeed become the catalyst. Chu Tianfeng yelled at Wen-gu and she ran out of the company with tears in her eyes. Ning Shu clicked his tongue and put his legs on the desk. Chu Tianfeng burst into the room and saw Ning Shu's unrestrained behavior. He was so pissed that he wanted to die. Seeing the son of his mistress made him angry. Did he have a pretty face? He was quite good at seducing women. Ning Shu smiled at Chu Tianfeng and threw him a look. Nephew, why are you looking for uncle? Chu Yongning, I advise you not to fight with me for everything. Do you want him to know your face? Chu Tianfeng said coldly. Ning Shu smiled faintly. Nephew, you don't think I'm going to steal your woman, do you? Nephew, I'm really not interested in her. But the elevator just shook. Do you believe me? Ning Shu said with a wink. Chu Tianfeng sneered. Grandpa can be fooled by your unrestrained and indifferent look, but I won't believe it. Are you going to steal everything that belongs to me? Chu family, woman. Ning Shu was speechless. Is this guy suffering from paranoia? She was so harmless. How could he say that she wanted to steal money and people? The world had such a deep misunderstanding of her. Sigh. Chu Yongning, as long as I'm here, I won't let you get what you want. You're so ambitious. Chu Tianfeng warned Ning Shu. You'd better not play tricks, or the Chu family will have no place. Ning Shu didn't care. Whatever. Chu Tianfeng felt that this Chu Yongning was very scheming. He acted as if he didn't care about anything. Acting like this could confuse his grandfather, but it definitely couldn't confuse him. Ning Shu didn't know what Chu Tianfeng was imagining, but he didn't really care. The world of you rich people is too inflationary. Banknotes are like hell money and toilet paper. Hundreds of billions can be easily found. It's too terrifying. As long as there was something to eat in this world, it would be fine. For the sake of the Chu family, Ning Shu was willing to tolerate Chu Tianfeng. If he couldn't stay in the Chu clan any longer, he would leave. Yes, I need to earn more money. I don't know when I can leave this world. Actually, it didn't matter if she didn't have money. She didn't eat or drink, so it didn't matter. Ning Shu had been avoiding Wengu before, but since the last time they met in the elevator, Ning Shu felt that Wen Ji's body had spiritual energy. In this modern society where spiritual energy was exhausted, it was very difficult for a person to carry spiritual energy. He wasn't a cultivator, but he had spiritual energy. Did he want to get close to Wengu? Originally, Chu Tianfeng thought that he was going to steal his woman. Did he think that as long as it was Chu Tianfeng's, she would fight for it? If he got close to Wengu again, Ning Shu felt that Wengu might be tortured to death by Chu Tianfeng. Generally speaking, when Chu Tianfeng was jealous, he might torture Wengu more in bed. This was really a heinous crime. If they really met secretly, it would be even more difficult to explain if they bumped into each other. Oh, it seemed that the breakthrough point was Wengu. Chu Tianfeng saw that Ning Shu was absent-minded and his eyes were empty. He knew that he didn't take his warning seriously at all. Chu Yongning, I'm warning you for the last time. Stay away from my woman. Chu Tianfeng said fiercely. Obviously, the scene in the elevator irritated Chu Tianfeng and made him particularly unhappy. He was unhappy with Ning Shu and Wengu. After taking his money, she actually got together with another man. Was the money not enough? Did she have to find another man to sell her? Ning Shu picked his ear. All right, nephew. Uncle isn't old yet. I can hear everything you say. I think that since you like her, you should bring her home and let the old master have a look. I don't like her. I bought her with my money. She's just a toy. When I get tired of her, I'll throw her away. There's no need to bring her back to meet the old master. I don't allow anyone to touch my things. I don't like other people's aura on my things. Ning Shu clicked his tongue. You're a chinibu. Ning Shu brushed the loose hair on his forehead. If you hadn't warned me, I might not have felt anything. That's how people are. The more you don't let me do something, the more I want to do it. You've successfully attracted my attention by warning me so seriously. Chu Tianfeng, this person was probably a lunatic. He was quite good at pretending to be crazy. But he got a message from his words. He was still going to harass Wengu. He was unhappy. If you dare to go and find Wengu, I'll make sure you die a horrible death. Ning Shu suddenly realized. Her name is Wengu. Chu Tianfeng felt that he could not communicate with this man. He snorted coldly, slammed the door and left. Ning Shu glanced at the door. He did not want to argue with this arrogant CEO. Chu Tianfeng thought of him as an imaginary enemy. He always felt that he was going to steal his money and his woman. Ning Shu took the opportunity to visit Wengu when Chu Tianfeng was not in the villa. When he opened the door, Wengu did not dare to open it completely. She only opened it a little and an eye popped out. "Why are you looking for me?" Wengu had already recognized that this was the man in the elevator. If Chu Tianfeng knew about this, the misunderstanding would be even deeper. Ning Shu said, "I'm Chu Tianfeng's uncle. I'm here for you." "Uncle?" Wengu was a bit suspicious, but Ning Shu directly squeezed in. Ning Shu looked around the house. It was well decorated and very warm. It was full of the smell of home. Wengu asked, "Are you really his uncle?" They looked the same age. How could there be a difference in seniority? "We inherited the father's genes." "The father's genes are the same." Wengu, okay, she believed him for now. Wengu poured a glass of water for Ning Shu. Ning Shu's attention was on Wenji's wrist. There was a bracelet on her wrist. The jade of the bracelet was not very good. There were some black spots. As soon as Wengu approached, Ning Shu felt a faint reiki. Well, Wengu was so cute. She was tortured by Chu Tianfeng for no reason. Her body could bear it. It was probably because of this little bit of reiki. Wengu took back her wrist that Ning Shu was staring at. She put her hand behind her back and asked nervously, "Why are you looking for me?" He was Chu Tianfeng's relative. Wengu felt like she was meeting a parent. Chapter 34-27. Wengu actually knew that it was an extravagant hope to be with Chu Tianfeng. She was just an item that Chu Tianfeng had bought. However, there was still a little hope in her heart. Therefore, facing Chu Tianfeng's uncle, Wengu was very nervous and tried her best to show a good side. Ning Shu looked Wengu up and down. Under her clothes was a mottled body with some ambiguous marks on it. It was summer and Wengu was wearing long sleeves. Fortunately, there was air conditioning in the house. Otherwise, she would have died from the heat. Ning Shu used his spiritual power to scan Wenji's body. In fact, he wanted to scan the bracelet on Wenji's wrist. This was the only piece of jewelry on Wengu. Other than that, Ning Shu could not think of any other source of spiritual qi on Wengu. It was impossible for her to have spiritual qi because when the soul jumped into the reincarnation pool, everything was cleaned. It was as unreliable as a person being born with body fragrance. People ate grains and produced all kinds of waste gas in the body. It was basically impossible for her to have a body fragrance. Therefore, when Ji's bracelet released a thin amount of spiritual qi. This meant that the bracelet might be a treasure. Ning Shu's spiritual power was reflected by the bracelet. Ordinary jade did not have such an ability. It seemed that when Ji's bracelet was something good. Ning Shu was a little curious. "Uncle, have some tea." Wengu noticed that Ning Shu was staring at her. The other party was a young man after all. Staring at her like that, it made her hair stand on end. Ning Shu looked at her wrist and said, "The bracelet on your wrist is good. Can I see it?" Wengu covered the bracelet with her hand and said, "The jade is not transparent. It's not a good jade. Grandma left it to me. I think it's pretty good. Can I see it?" "You don't have to take it off. I'll just take a look." Ning Shu felt that he was a little wretched when he said this. "I'll just stay outside and not go in." Wengu hesitated for a moment and reached out her hand. Ning Shu touched the bracelet. It was no different from an ordinary bracelet. Treasures concealed themselves. Some treasures knew how to conceal their own brilliance. "What are you doing?" A low voice sounded from the door. Ning Shu turned around and saw Chu Tianfeng standing at the door, his face glowing green. Adulterous couple. Chu Tianfeng was about to explode from anger. Wen Gu was so scared that she immediately retracted her hand and said, "It's not like that. It's not what you think." Listen to me, Ning Shu felt poisoned. Why was it that whenever she and Wen Gu were doing something, Chu Tianfeng would always bump into them and misunderstand them as being intimate? Seeing that Wen Gu kept saying that she wanted to explain but couldn't, Ning Shu felt a little annoyed. Wen Gu finally said, "Your uncle wants to see the bracelet on my wrist." "It's true. Believe me." Chu Tianfeng's expression brightened. "Are you playing a monkey? A bracelet?" Chu Tianfeng sneered at Ning Shu. "My uncle has seen all kinds of bracelets, yet he insists on looking at the bracelet in your hand." Ning Shu clicked her tongue. Seriously, why was it that no one believed her when she told the truth, but when she lied, they immediately believed her? She had taken advantage of the fact that Chu Tianfeng had gone to meet a client and wouldn't be back for a while to find Wen Gu. In the end, Chu Tianfeng came back so quickly. Seriously, why did he have to fool her? Wen Gu was so anxious that she was about to cry. "He really just wants to see my bracelet. There's nothing between us. We're really innocent." Chu Tianfeng sneered. Looking at the bracelet was just an excuse. His real goal was to flirt with his woman. Chu Yongning had lived in the Chu family and had seen all kinds of things. Branded jewelry, custom-made products, luxury cars and famous wines. Why would he care about a bracelet? It was just because the person wearing the bracelet wasn't simple. Ning Shu felt that the atmosphere was very strange. At this time, no matter what she said, Chu Tianfeng would probably twist it. So no matter what she did now, it would only add fuel to the fire. Ning Shu took a sip of tea and said, "Then you guys continue chatting. I'm leaving." Wen Gu was about to cry. She hurriedly said to Ning Shu, "Uncle, don't go. You have to explain clearly." Ning Shu shrugged. "What's there to explain? My nephew doesn't believe anything I say. He thinks there's something between us." Ning Shu was about to leave. Chu Tianfeng stood in front of Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows and looked at him. "What are you doing? Do you need me to stay?" Chu Tianfeng took a deep breath and looked at Ning Shu with disgust. "You can come and go as you please in my place." "Uncle," Chu Tianfeng gritted his teeth when he called Chu Tianfeng uncle. Ning Shu said, "Nephew, actually, I like men. So, women are not attractive to me." Ning Shu lifted Chu Tianfeng's chin. "If it were you, I might be tempted. Women are not as resolute as men." "Ha ha ha," Chu Tianfeng waved away Ning Shu's hand. He was a little disgusted by Ning Shu. "Chu Yongning, stop pretending to be crazy. Don't confuse people. Men and men. It was too disgusting. Men were not as soft and gentle as women. So disgusting. He must be pretending to be like this on purpose." Ning Shu sighed. "Why is it that no one believes me when I tell the truth?" Wen Gu saw this scene and felt an indescribable embarrassment. Two men, tall and straight, dressed in suits. Wen Gu didn't know why, but she felt something strange rising in her heart. It was a feeling of restlessness. Ning Shu smiled and walked away. Sigh. Ning Shu used his mental strength to check the situation in the room. Great, they were together again. Chu Tianfeng was totally torturing Wen Gu. What kind of men were these? It wasn't easy to earn this money. After a long time, people became numb. They became masochistic and developed true love. Ning Shu's attention was on Wen Ji's bracelet. This bracelet clearly had spiritual energy. If Chu Tianfeng hadn't suddenly appeared to catch them in the act, no, he suddenly came back to life and ruined her plan. There hadn't been any progress in this world until now. Ning Shu went home. He lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling, thinking about when he could leave this world. In the end, his vision blurred and he found himself sitting in the car again. Ning Shu was speechless. I'm fucking at home. Why am I sitting in the car? This scene was a little familiar. When he first came to this world, didn't he sit in the car? Ning Shu felt a little uneasy. What was going on? Time was going backwards. Ning Shu returned to the villa. Sure enough, Old Master gave him a warm welcome, welcoming Ning Shu back to the country. Ning Shu was speechless. I just lay on the bed for a while. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.